Chapter 1: The Vampire. Queens, New York. Somewhere in a dark street, a large slaughterhouse stood in it. Although it looks like this on the surface, its real face is beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Inside the slaughterhouse, somewhere behind the gate guarded by two tall and burly guards, as the lights flickered and explosive dance music played, countless men and women twisted their bodies wantonly releasing their energy that had nowhere to vent. The sounds of carnival and roaring were intertwined, and there were several figures overlapping from time to time in the corner, which looked extremely chaotic. Somewhere on the edge of a corner, looking at the scene in front of him, Chen Luo looked very silent, but he was a bit out of tune with the carnival scene around him. What's the situation? Where am I now? After a hard day's work, Chen Luo, who was resting in bed after get-off work, just opened his eyes and saw such a scene in front of him, which made him a little puzzled. At this time, a memory suddenly appeared in his mind, which made him dizzy, and it took him a while before he finally came back to his senses. I actually crossed? Surprised for a while, Chen Luo quickly realized. As an old bookworm, he is no stranger to this kind of situation. In addition, he was alone in the previous life and had nothing to worry about, so he quickly accepted the reality. Then after familiarizing himself with the memory, Chen Luo suddenly changed his face, lowered his head, looked at his hands in disbelief, and muttered to himself, "Damn it, how did I become a vampire?" Subconsciously exerting a little force, the originally smooth nails suddenly became sharper, and the two canine teeth in his mouth elongated instantly, looking like a standard vampire. After confirming the fact that he is a vampire, Chen Luo didn't feel any joy at all. On the contrary, he became depressed instead. As a vampire, whether it is the strength and speed that surpasses ordinary people, or the lifespan that far exceeds ordinary people, it is undoubtedly very attractive to Chen Luo, who was an ordinary person in his previous life. But at the same time, the shortcomings of vampires are also very obvious. Although it is known from memory that items such as holy water and wooden stakes in this world cannot harm vampires, garlic, silver products, and ultraviolet rays from the sun still have huge amounts of restraint on vampires. These shortcomings alone are not enough for Chen Luo to bear, especially when he learns that there is still a historical Stark industry in this world. After hearing the news, Chen Luo also understood what kind of world he is in today. It is a world full of superheroes and villains with the power to destroy the world. It can be described as extremely dangerous. In such a world, even if you just walk around on the ground casually, you might meet a superhero who will jump out and execute justice against him, a little vampire. Chen Luo really doesn't have the confidence to resist the opponent's endless means. After all, the upper limit of a creature like a vampire is there. Even if it can grow to a certain extent by sucking blood, it is absolutely impossible to stand shoulder to shoulder with a character like Thor Hulk, especially when facing the overlord of the universe, Purple Sweet Potato Essence. Thinking of the family planning plan of purple sweet potato extract in the future, Chen Luo couldn't help but despair. But after a while, Chen Luo also gradually calmed down, recalling the plot he had mastered, and he cheered up again. If he remembers correctly, there are still nearly 10 years before that crisis. If he develops well during this period of time, there will be a place for him in the future. But these are things that will be faced in the future, and the first thing to be solved at present is how to get rid of his weakness as a vampire. After all, whether it is garlic, silver products, or ultraviolet rays, they all have huge amounts of damage to him, and Chen Luo definitely wants to find a way to solve these weaknesses. And now he has a faint idea of the solution. According to his memory, Chen Luo was pleasantly surprised to find that he seemed to be a member of the Deacon Frost family, but because he had just been transformed not long ago, he was just a little transparent in the family. Now, as Dickon's right-hand man and a security officer under Quinn, he is responsible for guarding the safety of this underground bar. In the Frost family, it is at the bottom of the bottom. After hearing the news, Chen Luo's expression instantly became agitated. Dickon Frost, this name is very familiar to him. Isn't this the plot of Blade Warrior? Recalling the vampires known as Daywalker, a different kind of vampire, a glimmer of hope suddenly surged in Chen Luo's heart. That is the only existence among vampires that does not have any weakness of vampires. Garlic, silver products, even the deadliest sunlight can't affect him in any way. Isn't this the antidote he dreams of? If he could catch the opponent and study it carefully, he might be able to find a solution to the vampire's weakness. By then, he would be able to walk freely in the sun. Thinking of this, Chen Luo couldn't help clenching his fists. However, it didn't take long for him to be happy. Suddenly, a special voice sounded from his mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for activating the God-level selection system. It is detected that the host is about to encounter a life and death crisis. Choose to start. Choice 1. Choose to be tough with the upcoming blade. Take life and death seriously, and do it if you don't accept it. Reward: a luxurious cemetery on the outskirts of New York City. Option 2. Choose to run away before Blade arrives. To avoid the edge temporarily. Reward: double one random attribute among physique, spirit, strength, and speed. Hearing the messages coming from his mind one after another, after learning that he actually had a gold finger, Chen Luo was taken aback by the news that came out later before he could be happy. What? Blade is coming? Chapter 2 Leaving the battlefield, Blade kills. When Chen Luo saw the news again, he was completely dumbfounded. Thinking about it carefully, he suddenly woke up, looking at the scene in front of him in surprise, the carnival vampires, the dark environment, the underground bar. Could this be the scene at the beginning of Blade? Thinking that Blade would break in and kill him soon, Chen Luo couldn't sit still and quickly thought about countermeasures. Now the situation is very obvious. The system reminds him so clearly. It is because he knows how to choose. With his current small body, if he confronts Blade, a killing machine head-on, he will probably die without knowing how to die. Regarding this point, the luxurious cemetery rewarded to him by the system is the best explanation. The only way now is to find an opportunity to leave here, or wait until Blade kills. Recalling the other party's performance of chopping melons and vegetables in the movie, Chen Luo suddenly made a decision in his heart. After the selection is made, the sound of the system will be heard in due course. The choice has been determined, and the reward will be issued when the host is determined to be out of danger. Hearing this, Chen Luo did not delay, and immediately started to act. Now that he is the security guard of this bar, it is impossible for him to leave at will, and he can only leave safely after reporting to Kuan Yin and obtaining the other party's permission. As for what excuse he should use to leave, Chen Luo also vaguely had an idea. Having made a decision in his heart, Chen Luo immediately started to act. Quickly came to a certain corner, opened the door and entered. Behind this door is a huge and luxurious box, with huge amounts of sofas lined up inside, occupying half of the space. And on this luxurious and soft sofa, a man with a rough body and a big gold chain around his neck is sitting in the center, surrounded by two enchanting and beautiful female vampires, talking and laughing to himself. Seeing someone breaking in suddenly, Kuan Yin's expression changed, his eyes narrowed slightly, and he said in a deep voice, "Chen Luo, what are you doing here? This is not where you should be. Didn't you see that I still have business to do? Get out of here." Calmly glanced at the two beauties next to each other, Chen Luo cursed LSP inwardly, with a smile on his face at the same time, said, "Quinn, I'm here to ask you for a vacation. I haven't eaten for a while, and I need to go out and find some prey." "Huh? There will be a blood feast in the bar later. Why are you going out hunting by yourself? Isn't it troublesome?" Kun frowned impatiently. Chen Luo had already thought of an excuse for this, and saw that he parted the corner of his mouth slightly, revealing the sharp canine teeth, smiled greedily, and said, "How can the food on the blood feast be as fresh as hunting? Compared with this, I prefer to do it myself, so that I can feel a sense of accomplishment." Hearing this, Kuan Yin was taken aback, and then burst out laughing. "Haha, interesting. When you were still a human, I saw that you were an interesting guy, and I personally transformed you into a member of the Blood Clan. Now it seems that my decision is indeed right." He glanced at Chen Luo with admiration, nodded slowly, and said, "Since you like hunting, go for it. You're just mere humans. It's their honor to be the food of our Blood Clan. You don't have to come back tonight, just play outside. Don't worry, this is the territory of our forest family. No one will come to trouble you." Chen Luo nodded at the right time, with an excited smile on his face. "I see. Then I'll go first. Have fun, Quinn. Go." After waving his hand, Kuan Yin ignored him. Upon seeing this, Chen Luo didn't say much, and slowly turned and left. With the order of Kuan Yin, the actual manager, Chen Luo walked unimpeded along the way. He left the bar safely and was passing the slaughterhouse. Just when he arrived at the gate, two figures walked in at the right time. The two were a man and a woman. The woman had short blonde hair and a strong figure. She was pulling the man towards the depths of the slaughterhouse. Through the powerful perception of being a vampire, Chen Luo was able to smell an inexplicable fragrance from the man. As if there was something on the man attracting him, there was an inexplicable thirst in his throat, and two long canines subconsciously protruded. His eyes became a little greedy. There is no doubt that if there is anything that has such a strong attraction for vampires, it is blood. So the identity of a man is also ready to be revealed, human beings. So, is the plot about to begin? Thinking of Blade coming soon, a scene of bloody massacre here. Seeing the backs of the two leaving, Chen Luo's heart tightened, and he left quickly without further delay. And not long after Chen Luo left, a man in black leather with a long knife behind his back walked slowly towards the gate of the slaughterhouse. I don't know what I said to the guard at the gate, but within a few words, the man drew his knife and swung his knife decisively. Following a flash of cold light, the next moment, two human-shaped torches fell powerlessly in front of the man. Without the slightest hesitation, the man's figure flashed, and then he headed deep. Not long after, violent gunshots rang out, followed by countless piercing screams exploding in the depths. In the face of Blade's tyrannical force, even though there were hundreds of vampires in this bar, there is no hindrance to him. In just a moment, The entire bar was slaughtered by him. Looking at the hundreds of human-shaped torches under his feet, Blade showed a satisfied smile, pulled out a knife, and put the long knife back behind his back, turned around and disappeared into the original place. Land. Looking at the figure of the other party driving away, a figure slowly appeared in a corner outside the slaughterhouse. Is this the strength of Blade? It's really unexpectedly strong. Chen Luo frowned and said to himself solemnly. And at this moment, as Blade left, the next moment, the system's notification tone also sounded. Congratulations to the host for successfully escaping from danger. The reward is now issued. Chapter 3 Double the Speed. Ambushes in the Hospital. Selecting. The selection is complete, and the speed attribute of the host is doubled. The rewards have been distributed. As the system sound fell, the next moment, a warm current was generated from the body out of thin air, and then quickly flowed through the whole body. Under the transformation of the warm current, the muscle lines on his body gradually became clear, and an inexplicable sense of fullness filled his body. Not long after, when the warm current gradually subsided, Chen Luo opened his eyes again, feeling the power surging in his body, and his heart suddenly moved. In a blink of an eye, Chen Luo disappeared instantly, and when he reappeared, he was already tens of meters away. If vampires originally had several times the speed of ordinary people, then after the system transformation, Chen Luo's speed has now reached about 10 times that of ordinary people. Even compared to vampires, he still has a great advantage. Judging from his current speed, even if he encounters Blade head-on next time, even if he loses, he is confident that he can escape the opponent's pursuit by virtue of his speed advantage, and his survival ability can be said to be greatly improved. If it goes a little smoother, it is not impossible to successfully fight back with the advantage of speed. In general, Chen Luo is very satisfied with the rewards of the system. After familiarizing himself with his skyrocketing speed for a while, Chen Luo suddenly changed his expression and asked tentatively, "System, is there a property panel?" Next moment, ding! The personal attribute panel is successfully loaded. Host, Chen Luo. Race, Blood Clan. Strength, 3, 1 for a healthy adult male. Speed, 10. Spirit, 6. Physique, 5. Skills, none. Ability, draw blood, quickly restore physical strength by sucking blood. Speed up wound healing, self-healing, speed up body healing. Evaluation. A weak chicken vampire whose combat power surpasses that of ordinary people. Chen Luo. Although he was very dissatisfied with the system's evaluation, but after thinking about it carefully, it seemed that the other party was right. After all, this is a dangerous world where superheroes walk everywhere. Although it is still some time before that era comes, isn't there a Blade beside him right now who has been staring at him? Blade, who has inherited the power of a vampire, not only has the power of a vampire, but also has no corresponding weaknesses. Coupled with the opponent's well-trained fighting skills, if they face-to-face tough, even if they have an advantage in speed, it will be extremely difficult to defeat the opponent. Such an opponent is not something he can deal with now, but fortunately, he still has the plug-in of the system, so Chen Luo has rekindled hope for his future at this moment. If it was said that he still disliked the identity of a vampire, his attitude has completely changed now. With the help of the system, Chen Luo is very confident that he can eliminate the weaknesses of vampires. In this way, he not only has several times the physical fitness of ordinary people, but also has a very strong self-healing ability. What's more, vampires' lifespan of thousands of years is no worse than that of the Asers in Norse mythology. For such an opening, Chen Luo couldn't be too satisfied. Well, as expected of the noble blood clan, he really came from an extraordinary background. Chen Luo nodded in satisfaction, as if he had forgotten the disdainful expression on his face when he learned of his parentage. Now that he has received the reward, he is already familiar with Blade's appearance, and the police station will come to inspect it soon, so there is no benefit in staying. Chen Luo immediately turned around and planned to leave. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly remembered something. If he remembered correctly, that fellow Kun should not be dead yet. Although that guy should be burnt to charcoal by Blade at this moment, but in terms of the vitality of a vampire, this injury can't kill him. Thinking of this, a cold light flashed in Chen Luo's eyes. He did not forget who turned him into a vampire in the first place, and thinking of the torture he suffered back then, even if it was just a memory, made Chen Luo's scalp tingle. Such a scumbag, sure enough, hell is his best destination. Chen Luo sighed softly. At this time, ding, detected the host's killing intent towards Kuan Yin. Choose to start. Option 1. Get rid of Quinn. Seize Frost's second position. Reward, Blade's full fighting skills and experience. Option 2. Forget the hatred. Let go of Kunin. Reward, a forgiveness hat. God's so forgiving the hat. Seeing the second option, Chen Luo's face darkened, and he was also full of hatred for this system. Without too much hesitation, I decisively chose the first option, forgiving the other party. That was God's business, and all he had to do was send him to God. But now is not the time. This guy needs to use some of his energy. Knowing that the other party will still have some role in the next plot, Chen Luo did not directly choose to do it, and he is not sure whether Blade is following the other party in the dark. If he can't wait to jump out, with his current small body, but I couldn't bear Blade's knife. It seems that some preparations must be made first. Thinking of this, Chen Luo took another deep look at the gate of the slaughterhouse, then turned and disappeared into the darkness. Not long after, as several police cars arrived, they found Kuan-in who had been burned into a coke. The police officer who thought the other party was dead didn't think much about it, so he simply packed it up and sent him to the hospital, performed an autopsy. Blood sugar is about 3 times higher than normal. Phosphorus acid and uric acid are also high. He still has biconvex red blood cells. That's impossible. It is impossible for a normal human body to have such a thing. Seeing the reception on the electronic screen, a trace of disbelief flashed in Karen's eyes, and at the same time he became very interested in the corpse being dissected. After thinking about it, she slowly got up and walked towards the dissection room. However, not long after entering, suddenly, there was a piercing scream. Limp on the ground powerlessly, watching the charred corpse suddenly get up, throwing her ex-boyfriend to the ground, biting the other's neck with sharp teeth, blood gushing out like a waterfall, and then all of them were killed by the man. The charred corpse was inhaled into the abdomen. After sucking a lot of blood, the scorched corpse seemed to be nourished. The originally scorched skin slowly began to metamorphosis, intertwined with the new fresh and tender skin, which looked extremely terrifying. Slowly getting up and walking towards Karen, Quinn grinned a long arc, exposing 2 sharp canine teeth to the air. What a sweet taste. You should be honored to be my food. He greedily licked his lips, unable to hold back any longer. He immediately grabbed the opponent's shoulder tightly, opened his mouth wide, and bit down hard. When the skin was bitten through, Karen finally realized the pain and struggled violently, but it was too late. As the blood in her body gradually disappeared, the strength in her whole body gradually disappeared. Soon, her body consciousness began to blur. At this critical moment, suddenly, with the sound of glass shattering, a cold light flashed. The next moment, a painful wail sounded and Quinn, who had lost an arm, made a decisive decision and decisively pushed Karen towards Blade, and then ran forward without looking back. Seeing this, Blade, who didn't want to let the other party go, just wanted to go forward to chase, but was dragged in place by the police who came later, and Karen was already in danger at this moment, so in desperation, Blade had no choice but to give up the idea of chasing for the time being. Took Karen out of the hospital. On the other side, Quinn just turned a corner. The next moment, a black shadow flashed past. A sharp pain came from his neck. Kuan-in looked forward, his eyes protruding, and he only had time to leave a look full of horror, and then his body gradually turned into ashes and dissipated in the air. After a while, Chen Luo walked out of the hospital. Looking at the busy scene behind him, a smile slowly appeared on his face. Chapter 4, putting blame on one step further. It's finally resolved. In this way, that guy Dickon shouldn't suspect me either. After thinking about it carefully and making sure there was nothing missing, Chen Luo finally felt relieved. While Kunin was being sent to the hospital, Chen Luo went to a weapon shop during this period and ordered a silver-plated weapon. The weapon is also very simple, just a layer of silver plating on a circle of steel wire. The processing difficulty is not too big, and it was completed in a short time. While customizing the weapon, in order to prevent the weapon from affecting him, Chen Luo also specially equipped himself with a pair of leather gloves to avoid direct contact with silver. After everything was ready, Chen Luo immediately set off for the hospital where Kurinen was. Because of the delay on the road, when Chen Luo arrived, he happened to find Blade walking into the hospital first. Knowing the next plot, his heart moved, and an idea immediately came to his mind. Since he chose to kill Quinn, doing it directly is obviously not in line with his plan. After all, he still has the goal of becoming the second head of the Frost family. If Dickon finds out that his right-hand man will die in his hands, then this goal will be in vain. But since Blade appeared here, it immediately gave him a new idea. The other party's goal is obviously the same as his. They both want to kill Kurin-in, but knowing the plot, he also understands that the other party obviously cannot achieve the goal this time, and Kurin-in will also escape from him. But if he joined, the result would be quite different. With Blade in front of him, he only needs to find a suitable time to deal with the target, and then put Kuin's death on Blade. Because Blade's arrival at the hospital has been seen by many people, so Dickon would have no doubts. The most important thing is that after his speed increases, Chen Luo has great confidence to ensure that he will not be discovered by others. In this way, he can completely remove his suspicion, which undoubtedly has a great influence on his next plan. The benefits of. Thinking of this, Chen Luo suddenly made up his mind. Edgewood Building. This building covers an area of thousands of square meters, with 52 floors in its entire body, and an astonishing height of more than 150 meters. This figure is already quite outstanding in this era, Even in New York, which is known as an international metropolis, there are not many such magnificent buildings. Undoubtedly, those who can own this building must not have a small net worth. The fact is also true. The current owner of this building is Dickon Frost, who claims to have a net worth of billions of dollars and countless properties under his name. What many people don't know is that this well-known rich man has another side that is unknown. While holding huge wealth, the Forrester family he founded also has a lot of voice among the vampire forces in this country. It can be said that among the forces of non-pure blood vampires, the Forrest family is already one of the best. But even with the strength of the Forrest family, they still feel extremely troubled by the existence of Blade, who is specifically targeting their vampires. Over the years, in the face of Blade's hunting and killing, this family has also lost a considerable part of its strength, and the family's manpower has also decreased by hundreds of people at the same time, which can be described as a heavy loss. Especially after learning that Quinn also died at the hands of the other party this time. It caused Dickon to become unprecedentedly angry. So, did Quinn also die at the hands of Blade? After hearing Chen Luo's explanation beside him, Dickon's eyes were instantly filled with killing intent. Chen Luo nodded, then said helplessly, "After I knew where Quinn was, I was going to the hospital to look for him, but I was already a step late. When I arrived, Blade had already left. And at that time, the night was almost over, and it was impossible to catch up with him. Impossible, so I can only withdraw first." After explaining the reason, he changed the subject and said, "But before I leave, I know one more thing." "Huh? What's the matter?" "As far as I know, before Blade left, he seemed to take a doctor named Karen Jason with him. The doctor was probably bitten by Quinn, so he was taken back by Blade for treatment. If he can be found whereabouts, maybe we can find the trace of Blade." Hearing this, Dickon's expression changed, and he took a deep look at Chen Luo beside him, with a satisfied smile on his face. She reached out and patted his shoulder, and said slowly, "Good job, Chen. This news from you can save me a lot of time." After saying this, Dickon lowered his head, thought for a while, and then said, "Although Quinn is no longer here, the power he left behind needs someone to manage it. Chun, I will give you such a chance. In the next month, I will give you the management of an underground bar. After 1 month, as long as the business of this bar can be on the right track, the position left by Kun will be handed over to you." After all, Dickon showed an inexplicable smile on his face, looked at Chen Luo, and said softly, "So, let me see if you have this ability, Chan." Hearing this, Chen Luo showed a look of excitement on his face at the right time, nodded heavily, and said, "Don't worry, Dickon, you won't be disappointed." Watching the back of Chen Luo leaving, Dickon picked up the wine glass beside him, which was filled with bright red liquid, and the charming aroma overflowed from the wine glass. Raising his wine glass, just as he was tasting the delicacy in it, at this moment, a beautiful figure pushed open the door and walked in. Lori came up to Dickon and said, "Dickon, it's been confirmed. Blade was indeed found in that hospital. And after Blade disappeared, the doctor named Karen did disappear too." Hearing this, Dickon nodded lightly, no more doubts in his heart. Recalling Chen Luo's performance in front of him today, a glint of expectation suddenly appeared in his eyes. "I hope you can bring me some surprises." He sighed with emotion, then turned his head to look at Loli, and said in a deep voice, "As for Blade's movements, I will do my best to find out. There is also the doctor, and her traces must be found as soon as possible. No matter what, Blade must be in our hands. I have a hunch that Blade may be the key to my plan. So no matter what, I must find him." Thinking of the record he accidentally discovered some time ago, Dickon couldn't help becoming extremely hot in his heart. "A blood god? I hope you can bring me some surprises." Chapter 5 Paradise Bar, Dissatisfied People. After leaving the building, Chen Luo returned to an apartment in Queens. Because of joining the Forster family, Chen Luo can receive a handsome salary every month, so renting such a luxurious apartment is not too stressful for him. Usually during the day, Chen Luo sleeps in the apartment and does not wake up until night to go out and start activities. Perhaps it was due to the influence of the blood of vampires, even though Chen Luo was not in the mood to sleep at the moment, but after the day came, a sense of drowsiness suddenly rose in his body. He was lazy and didn't want to move. Such a characteristic is really troublesome. It seems that the vampire's weakness of being afraid of the sun must be solved as soon as possible. While complaining, Chen Luo didn't move slowly at the same time. He returned to the bedroom that was closed and ensured that no sunlight came in. He came to the big soft bed and lay down. The next moment, he fell into a deep sleep. When he came awakening, it was already 8 o'clock in the evening. Now that the sun has set, and the moment the moon rises, Chen Luo also opened his eyes in good time. Get up slowly, first check the time, then go to the window, open the curtains, look at the night outside. Suddenly, an inexplicable sense of comfort surges from the body. The body seems to be full of vitality again, and the senses have become more acute under the cover of night. Feeling the changes in the body, Chen Luo couldn't help feeling As expected of a creature of darkness, the night is indeed the home of vampires. No wonder those guys would run to bars at night. Recalling what he saw in the bar last night, he was still a little puzzled. Are those vampires all idle? Why do you go to disco? Now it seems that it is probably also to vent their excess energy. After sighing with emotion, Chen Luo didn't delay. After getting dressed, he opened the door and walked towards the destination. At the same time, in a certain seemingly desolate street, if a vampire passes by, you can find a unique mark shining with a faint light on a wall. This is the symbol of the Forster family, and a vampire gathering place is often hidden under this symbol. And such gathering places are often built in the form of bars. At this moment, under this mark, there is such a building. Inside the Paradise Bar. As the most luxurious bar under Kuan Yin, the interior space is even more huge beyond imagination, covering an area of more than 2,000 square meters, with huge amounts of on the dance floor. Under the dim light, countless figures are swaying their bodies to their heart's content, ecstasy, carnival. Around this dance floor, there are several long corridors. There are dozens of boxes scattered in the corridors. Men and women who are full of energy and have nowhere to vent are performing scenes of big dramas, but because of the good airtightness, the outside world can't see the inside scene at all. But in one of the boxes, it was a completely different scene. Boom! He smashed the wine bottle in his hand hard, and the shattered glass shards stuck in the palm of his hand. Even though it was dripping with blood, Kasong didn't care. His face was flushed red, and his tall and burly body trembled slightly. Looking at the people in front of him, he roared loudly. What kind of abilities does that kid named Chen Luo have? How can he become the manager of the Paradise Bar? Even if this is the leader's arrangement, I, Kasong, will not be convinced. As soon as these words came out, the crowd in the room suddenly became angry. That's right. I think Boss Kasong is the most suitable one. We usually manage the bar, why should we give it to him? Although Boss Quen is gone, Boss Kasong is the most suitable candidate to take over the power in Boss Quen's hands. We only recognize Boss Kasson alone. I don't know what that Chen Luo guy said in front of the leader, so that the leader favors this kid so much. But these are useless. He is just a newcomer who has just been transformed for a few days. Why can he ride on our head? Superior? I think he hasn't even learned how to hunt yet. With such strength, let alone Boss Kasong, I'm afraid that any one of us can easily defeat that kid. I really don't understand what the leader is looking at. Where is that boy? At this moment, everyone's faces were full of dissatisfaction, and they even had great opinions on the boss, who came by airborne. After Dickon gave the order, Chen Luo's situation became known to them immediately. And when they learned that the other party was just a rookie vampire who had just been transformed for a few days, the dissatisfaction in their hearts suddenly surged like a tide. As for the reason for dissatisfaction with Chen Luo, it is also very simple. First of all, Kasson was the capable general of Quen's subordinates. After Quen's fall, the others all agreed that Kasson would be the right candidate to succeed the former boss. And that powerful force made everyone feel at ease. Compared with the former, Chen Luo, a newcomer who has just joined for a few days, is unknown to everyone. Most importantly, as a newcomer vampire who has just been transformed for a few days, in the eyes of everyone, his strength must be at the bottom, and most of the problems that management bars have to deal with are related to combat. In the end, not to mention that it can solve the problem, just whether it can convince the public is a big problem. The main reason why people are dissatisfied with it now comes from this. How can such a newcomer who is not strong and doesn't know the basics like Kasong gain the trust of everyone? With this in mind, the opposition in the box became more and more intense. Seeing such a scene, Kasong nodded in satisfaction, and a sinister smile slowly appeared on the corner of his mouth. Since everyone thinks so, then when that kid Chen Luo comes over later, I think we should also give him a good welcome. Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up, and they became more and more excited about what was about to happen. At this moment, the younger brother in charge of guarding the door suddenly pushed the door in, came to Kasong and said, "Boss, Chen Luo is already outside the door now." Huh? Kasong stared at him, but suddenly burst into laughter the next moment. "Finally, let me wait. I want to see why this kid can get the leader's approval." While speaking, he strode forward and turned around, walking towards the gate. The rest of the younger brothers looked at each other, and immediately followed. Chapter 6 Beautiful Vampire? Chen Luo's action. Following the location in memory, Chen Luo came to an underground gate. After the name was announced, the guard who had already received the news couldn't help but take a deep look at the other party, but said nothing, and opened the door to let Chen Luo in. Chen Luo had already noticed the look in the eyes of the two of them, and after smiling at them, he slowly walked away. Came to the bar and sat down, ordered a glass of wine, then sat on the seat, motionless, quietly watching the carnival on the dance floor in front of me. It has to be said that after getting used to such a noisy environment, Chen Luo gradually discovered the fun, and at the same time gained a deeper understanding of the party culture here. In such an environment, it is indeed helpful for two strangers to get closer to each other quickly, Just like on the dance floor now, the two who were dancing separately before slowly getting closer together at some point. All kinds of boldness. Chen Luo was a little dazed by his actions. With the progress of the two of them, it won't be long before the next box will usher in another business deal. Chen Luo, who has already regarded this bar as his own at this moment, is undoubtedly very satisfied when he thinks of another income coming in. Although this bar is the property of the Forster family, as the actual manager of the bar, half of the bar's income is his private property. And as the largest bar under Quinn's command, it can bring Quinn millions of dollars in income every month, and its importance is self-evident. But now the business here is very good. So what does that guy Dickon mean? Isn't this on the right track? Or is there something wrong here that he doesn't know? All kinds of thoughts flashed by, and Chen Luo couldn't help being a little lost. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from beside him. What are you thinking? After recovering, Chen Luo turned his head and looked over. The moment he saw the other party, Chen Luo's eyes lit up. She was dressed in a black, tight-fitting leather jacket, showing her perfectly curvy figure unreservedly, and her long brown chestnut hair shawl, matched with the other party's charming face. It seemed to have a different kind of charm. There is no doubt that this is a top-notch beauty regardless of her appearance or figure. No, perhaps it should be more appropriate to describe it as a beautiful vampire. It's nothing. I'm just waiting for someone to make trouble here. Looking at the smile on Chen Luo's face, curiosity flickered in his eyes. Looking for trouble? Have you messed with anyone here? Maybe. Chen Luo smiled irrefutably, then looked in the direction of the bartender, and raised his hand slightly. Please give this lady a Bloody Mary, and I will pay it. Hold on. Not long after, Chen Luo pushed the wine glass over, raised the glass, touched it lightly, and then said, Let's get to know each other, Chen Luo. Nissa. Nisha was taken aback for a moment, then she quickly realized that she raised her wine glass and took a sip. Nice name. Chen Luo nodded first and then asked thoughtfully, But I think this is the first time we've met, right? After understanding what he meant, Nissa blinked and said unhurriedly, Don't get me wrong, it's just that Asians are still a minority in our ethnic group. After a pause, as if she was afraid that Chen Luo would misunderstand, she then explained, I don't mean anything else, it's just that such situations are really rare. Chen Luo understood, shrugged helplessly, and said with a smile, I don't know if I'm unlucky or lucky. Hearing this, Nissa slightly raised her eyebrows, with a slight smile in the corner of her eyes. That depends on how to compare. At least compared to most people, you are lucky. That's right. Chen Luo nodded in agreement, then raised his glass again and said with a smile, Then, how about a toast to my luck? Definitely. Looking at Chen Luo's handsome profile beside her, Nisha's mood suddenly improved a lot. If she chose to come to the bar to have a drink to relax because of some family matters before, now after meeting Chen Luo, those original troubles have gradually been left behind by her. Just when the two were chatting happily. On the other side, Kasong finally brought a group of men down to the dance floor. As the only Asian in the crowd, Chen Luo's appearance was still very recognizable. So with a simple glance, Kasong discovered where Chen Luo was. With a cold snort, he was about to step towards Chen Luo. At this time, the subordinates at the side immediately saw the opportunity to perform and hurried forward to persuade. Boss Kasong, what else do you need to do to deal with that kid? Just leave it to us. That's right. We'll teach him the rules here. After today, this kid will understand what will happen if he competes with Boss Kasong. Seeing that everyone was gearing up, Kasong nodded in satisfaction, with a ferocious smile on his face. That's fine. Then you guys go over and try it. Let that kid understand. Whose territory is this here? After saying this, Kasong stood there motionless, looking straight in the direction of Chen Luo, with anticipation in his eyes. Afterwards, several people walked towards Chen Luo in unison. At this time, Chen Luo, who was originally smiling, suddenly paused, looked forward, with a flash of expectation in his eyes, and said softly, Finally come. Huh. Upon hearing this, Nisha's eyes flashed a hint of doubt. Before she had time to ask, she saw Chen Luo slowly get up, and then walked forward. Looking at the oncoming group of people, Chen Luo's expression did not change at all, and he said calmly, You are finally here. Where is Kasong? Take me to see him. Hearing this, the originally aggressive crowd suddenly froze, subconsciously looking in the direction of Kasong. Following their line of sight, Chen Luo nodded slightly when he saw the tall and burly figure not far away. It turned out to be him. I know. After saying this, he raised his foot and walked in the direction of Kasong regardless of other people's reactions. Seeing his actions, everyone was stunned at first, and then anger surged in their hearts, and they stretched out their hands to stop him without even thinking about it. Stop. Boss Kasong is someone you can meet if you want. Just when everyone was about to move to surround Chen Luo, suddenly, a black shadow flashed past, and everyone had no time to react. The next second, Chen Luo appeared in front of Kasong. So fast. Seeing Chen Luo's actions, Kasong was startled. The original disdain had long since disappeared, and he looked at Chen Luo in amazement. At the same time, beside Chen Luo's original seat, Nisha, who was a little curious, suddenly had a bright eye. Looking at Chen Luo's back, she felt a little more anticipation in her heart. Chapter 7 Chen Luo's Plan, A New Choice. Coming to Kasong, Chen Luo showed an inexplicable smile on his face when he saw the serious expression on the other side. You are Kasong? Thank you so much during this time. Kasong came back to his senses, frowned and asked, What do you mean? Chen Luo raised his eyebrows and said, Don't you understand? My bar is also thanks to your management. There have been no accidents during this time. A few thanks are also due. But since I've come here, I don't need your help here. But you don't need to leave in a hurry. In order to express my gratitude, everyone's consumption today will be counted on my head. Have fun, everyone. Hearing this, Kasong, who had a ferocious expression on his face, froze, and then became even more angry. Lowering his head, the tall figure half a head taller than Chen Luo completely enveloped it, with a strong sense of oppression. The fangs that belonged only to vampires were exposed, and a red light flashed in his eyes, as if he was about to violently kill someone in the next moment generally. Boy, I don't care how the leader arranges it, but if you want to take over this bar, you have to pass my level first. Oh? Then what do you want to do? Chen Luo's expression changed, and he looked at him with a half-smile and said, It's very simple. Kasong slowly grinned a huge amounts of gap, showing a cruel smile, and then said, As long as you can beat me, Paradise Bar will be yours. But if I win, you have to voluntarily give up the management of the bar in front of the leader. How about it? Do you accept this bet? Hearing this, Chen Luo raised his head and took a deep look at the other party with inexplicable eyes. He had also heard about the deeds of his capable general from Kuan-In before, but whether it was Kuan-In or others, the image of each other in their mouths was the reckless and direct type, which was quite different from what he showed now. Based on what the other party said just now, Chen Luo can be sure that the other party is definitely not the type with well-developed limbs and a simple mind. On the contrary, this appearance may just be his protective color. Obviously, Kasson is definitely afraid of him, the manager appointed by Deacon himself, and what he fears is not Chen Luo himself, but the owner of the forest family behind him. It is precisely because of this that he made such a proposal. As long as Chen Luo loses in the next duel and is willing to let go of his power, then he will not be violating Deacon's wishes, and the management of the bar will still be in the hands of Chen Luo. In his hands, it can be said to kill two birds with one stone. Not only that, even deciding the ownership of the bar through a duel has been counted as part of his plan. If Chen Luo's guess is correct, the other party should want to arouse his anger by provoking his subordinates. If you are humiliated in front of everyone, you have to accept the other party's proposal. If he chooses to refuse, then he will have no prestige in the eyes of these people. In this way, even if Deacon still does not change his decision, it will be very difficult for him to order his subordinates to do things, even if he is on the surface. He can be regarded as the manager of the bar, but he can't say it in private. Wanting to understand this, Chen Luo suddenly became interested in this strong man who looked like a giant bear in front of him. After thinking for a while, Chen Luo slowly shook his head and said softly, I can accept the proposal, but this bet doesn't sound very fair. If I remember correctly, this bar should already belong to me now. If that's the case, you should also change your bet. What do you want? Kasong folded his hands on his chest and said in a deep voice, How about this? If I win this duel, then as a bet, you will serve me for the rest of your life before I die. If you win, then I will give you this bar. What do you think of this proposal? Chen Luo smiled and expressed his thoughts. Hearing this, Kasong frowned suddenly, looked at Chen Luo carefully for a moment, and finally nodded slowly. Sounds fair. I'll take this bet. As soon as the words fell, the next moment, a familiar voice came from Chen Luo's mind. Ding! It is detected that the host is about to start a battle. Choose to start. Option 1. Win the duel with Kasong. Earn your opponent's allegiance. Reward, double one random attribute among physique, spirit, strength, and speed. Option 2. Find an opportunity to escape during the battle and give up the duel. Reward, gain a passive ability, the ability to eliminate the sense of presence. Looking at these two options, Chen Luo's heart moved, and he immediately chose the first option without any hesitation. Although the reward of the second choice looks good, after all, it is a rare ability reward, but thinking of the consequences of this choice, Chen Luo decisively gave up the idea. If he chooses to escape during the battle, what he will lose is not only the opportunity to get the management right of the bar, but most importantly, his performance will undoubtedly seriously affect his impression in Deacon's heart, and he will become the second leader of the opponent. The chances are infinitely close to zero. For the previous choice, Chen Luo has always kept it in mind. If he can't complete the task of the second master, then the reward of getting all the combat experience and skills of Blade will be for naught. And this is absolutely unacceptable to him. In this dangerous world, the improvement of strength is the top priority. Once you have Blade's combat skills and experience, coupled with his speed 10 times faster than ordinary people, defeating Blade will no longer be a luxury. Each other. So as to study the secret of Daywalker, then daylight will no longer be his weakness. So no matter what, he must win this duel. Although compared to Cassin, the time for him to be transformed into a vampire is very short. If it was 2 days ago, he would definitely have no hope of defeating the opponent. But it is different now. Now his speed is twice that of an ordinary vampire. Times, with the advantage in speed, even if the opponent's other attributes are stronger than yourself, it is useless to miss. Although he showed off a little in front of the other party just now, that speed is not his limit. If the other party thinks that he only has this level, then he will underestimate him a bit. Thinking of this, Chen Luo couldn't help showing a confident smile on his face. Chapter 8 Absolute Advantage, Destroying Everything. Not long after, in the center of the huge dance floor in the bar, the densely packed figures disappeared. Countless people surrounded the dance floor, and frantic shouts sounded. Come on, Boss Kasong. Give this newcomer some color. That's right. He's just a rookie vampire. I really don't understand why Boss Dickon is so optimistic about him. He even wants to hand over the Paradise Bar to him. I remember that he has only been with Boss Kun for a few days. He is a complete newcomer in our forest family. If such a newcomer rides on us, we will not agree. Rookie, I advise you to admit defeat quickly, or if Boss Kasong makes a move later, you may not be able to get out of here. Under the command of Kasong's younger brothers, the originally noisy dance floor had come to a standstill at this moment, and everyone surrounded Chen Luo and Chen Luo in the center, with expressions of excitement on their faces. After all, this is a rare duel scene, and the participants are not simple. One side is the actual manager who has managed the Paradise Bar for decades, and it is Quinn, the second in command of the Forest family. The other party is not simple. Although he is just a new vampire, somehow he got the attention of Dickon, who is in charge of the family. For this reason, he even handed over the management of Paradise Bar to the other party, which shows his special status in Dickon's heart. Two people with such identities are about to start a duel here. Wouldn't it be more exciting than dancing? Coupled with the bloodthirsty instinct of being a vampire, it added a bit of frenzy to the atmosphere of the scene. All the people present at the moment, 99% of the audience were cheering for Cassin loudly, obviously full of confidence in him. The reason is also very simple. As long as you look at the year when the two parties were transformed, you will know the gap. As we all know, vampires can only grow by sucking blood, and Kasong has grown decades longer than Chen Luo, and his power is by no means comparable to that of a rookie vampire who has just been transformed for a few days. So don't look at them calling Zhenghuan at the moment, but in their hearts, Chen Luo has no chance of winning. But it's not that they are not optimistic about the existence of Chen Luo. As the only 1% of the audience, Nisha stood at the front of the crowd, with her arms folded, making the pair of murder weapons on her chest even more majestic and beautiful. The curve is even more unobstructed. Looking at the field with great interest, his eyes were fixed on Chen Luo's back, and a faint look of anticipation flashed in his eyes. After the conversation just now, she understood that Chen Luo was by no means the kind of person who did things without thinking. Since the other party agreed to Kasong's proposal, she must have a certain degree of certainty in her heart. But according to what other people said, Chen Luo is just a rookie vampire who has just been transformed. Compared with other veteran vampires, his strength must be far behind. What is he relying on? Like everyone else in the center of the dance floor, looking down at Chen Luo in front of him, Kasong showed a confident smile on his face. Everything went as he planned. Although there were some twists and turns in the process, but as long as the result remained the same, that was enough. With his strength, he really didn't believe that the other party could pose any threat to him. Even though the speed shown by the other party just now surprised him a bit, but after thinking about it carefully for a while, although the other party's speed was faster than him, he still had the confidence to deal with it. After all, no matter what, he has been a vampire for decades longer than the other party. If he will fail in this case, then there is no reason for him to continue to sit in this position. Although he is very confident in himself, recalling the speed of the other party's performance, Kasong still feels a little apprehensive in his heart. If he was still holding the attitude of teasing the other party before, then he has completely changed his mind now. Well boy, are you ready? Chen Luo put on the gloves unhurriedly, then waved his hands, and said with a relaxed face, "No problem, you can start any time." Just as the last word fell, Kasong made an instant move the next moment. In the body that looks like a giant bear, there is flexibility and explosiveness that do not match his figure at all. In less than half a second, raising his hand, clenching his fist, and swinging his fist are all done in one go, just a blink of an eye, as if the fist of casserole file size hit Chen Luo straight. The violent airflow blows forward, driven by huge amounts of power. Before the punch arrives, the strong wind of the fist blows Chen Luo's cheeks with pain. If the punch hits hard, Chen Luo has no doubts, even if he is a vampire, even with a weak physique, he will end up with broken bones. Just when the punch was about to hit, the smile on Kasong's face only slightly raised. The next moment, accompanied by a flash of cold light, a severe burning pain came from the wrist, and there was only time to let out a painful wail. Immediately afterwards, under everyone's shocked eyes, Kasong's fist was instantly separated from the body and broke from the wrist. Poochie. At the knee section, blood spewed out like a small waterfall, and the fallen palm began to burn violently, quickly turning into a mass of ashes. Kasong, who had lost his right hand, knelt down on one knee, clutching his right wrist. His face turned extremely grim due to the severe pain, and he looked at Chen Luo in front of him, revealing incomparable shock and fear. What speed is this? Could it be that what he showed before was not his full strength? Recalling what happened at that moment just now, the opponent's speed was like a ghost. He didn't even have time to react, and he didn't even know what weapon the opponent was using. The attack was over. With such a speed, I'm afraid even that demon is no match, right? Recalling the ghost-like figure with the long knife on his back, Kasong suddenly had such an idea. Quiet. The silence of death. Looking at the half-kneeling figure in front of Chen Luo, everyone around them had their eyes bulging and their mouths wide open. All of them fell into a stupor. They couldn't believe that Kasong, whom they were optimistic about, would be defeated so quickly. They didn't even have time to react, and they didn't even know how the opponent made a move, so they defeated Kasong. You know, Kasong's skills are already considered among the top 10 or even top 5 powerhouses in the Forster family. He even escaped a catastrophe in the hands of Blade. Today, facing Chen Luo, he will end up in a disastrous defeat. In the eyes of everyone, this is simply like a fairy tale. How strong should this guy be? Looking at Chen Luo's back, everyone's expressions completely changed at this moment. They also had a new understanding of this rookie vampire. Chapter 9 Surrender, the hidden danger in the bar. After a while, the crowd finally came back to their senses, staring fixedly at Chen Luo's back in the field, and there was a chaotic noise. It's unbelievable. He is so strong. Is this still a rookie vampire? Yes. Who can react at this speed? Boss Kasong didn't deserve to lose. I think Chen Luo's strength is no worse than Blade's, right? Great. If Boss Chen Luo can really beat Blade, then we won't have to hide anymore. With a strong man like Boss Chen Luo sitting in the town, I don't see anyone who dares to make trouble. We finally don't have to worry about it. Today I want to have a good time. At this moment, the eyes of everyone looking at Chen Luo were full of awe and enthusiasm. After Chen Luo's small trial just now, there was no objection to letting Chen Luo stay in the bar. On the contrary, with a strong man like Chen Luo in charge, the safety of Paradise Bar will be greatly improved. It is conceivable that in the next period of time, when the news spreads, the flow of people here will greatly increase. Among the crowd, Nisha stared at Chen Luo's back. Her big, beautiful eyes seemed to glow with some kind of brilliance, and there was a special smile on the corner of her mouth. Sure enough, as she thought, the reason why the other party accepted Kasong's proposal must have their own plans in mind. Although she had some confidence in Chen Luo, she was still taken aback after seeing his performance. This is the first time she has seen such an astonishing speed. Even though she was born as a pure-blood vampire, in terms of physical fitness, she is better than the transformed vampire, but she is not as fast as Chen Luo, let alone the other party is a new vampire. Curious. The other side. Looking at the strong man half kneeling in front of him, Chen Luo narrowed his eyes slightly and asked calmly, "How? Are you still planning to resist?" Hearing this, Kasong was silent for a moment, then shook his head slowly. "No need. Your speed is very fast. I am not your opponent." While speaking, under the vampire's self-healing ability, the pain in his wrist has gradually dissipated at this moment. The blood stopped gushing. The wound slowly began to scab, and brand new bones and muscle tissue also began to grow slowly. In a few days, the amputated palm can grow again. His face gradually returned to calm, and he looked straight into Chen Luo's eyes. After a long time, Kasong lowered his head and said in a deep voice, "I would like to bet and admit defeat." "Boss." The voice just fell. Next moment, ding. The selection is complete, and the reward is now issued. Start random selection. The selection is over. The host's speed attribute is doubled. The rewards have been distributed. Following the notification sound, a warm current began to swim through Chen Luo's body, and it gradually disappeared without a trace after a while. Chen Luo's expression changed. He didn't pay attention to the changes in his body for the time being, but smiled and helped Kasong up. Although he successfully defeated the opponent, Chen Luo valued this newly subdued subordinate very much. The other party has been able to maintain the normal operation of the bar for so many years, and can also bring huge amounts of income to the former boss. It can be seen that he is definitely a talent in management, and judging by the attitude of his younger brothers, it is obvious that he is very good at Kasong, the boss. It is also convinced. To achieve this, it is absolutely impossible without strong strength. How could Chen Luo not value such talents with both civil and military skills? In addition, he knows what kind of world he is in. In this universe where there are countless strong people, only strength is the foundation. Although it would be a lot more convenient to have a faction serving him, Chen Luo didn't bother to take care of the faction, so it was essential to find suitable talents to share the burden for him. Judging from the candidates Chen Luo has contacted so far, it is obvious that Kasong is a good candidate. After appeasing the other party, the dance floor returned to its previous noise, and even compared to before, the atmosphere here became a bit more lively. But in less than 10 minutes, several pairs of figures rushed in. In the sidebox, Chen Luo is definitely happy to see such an operation to increase the income of his own bar. When Chen Luo returned to the bar again and looked at the empty seats beside him, he was slightly astonished. As if seeing Chen Luo's doubts, the bartender in front of him quickly said, "Boss Chen Luo, the guest just now has left." "Really? I got it." Chen Luo replied calmly, shaking the wine glass in his hand. Although the other party is also a rare beauty, but Chen Luo is not unable to walk when seeing a beautiful woman, and he will not feel that he is a sweet pastry that everyone loves. After all, Franklin has no feelings for others, let alone it's him. Therefore, regarding the departure of the other party, Chen Luo did not feel any fluctuations in his heart. "Boss Chen Luo, don't worry, when the guest comes next time, I will notify you in time." Hearing this, Chen Luo's heart skipped a beat. Looking at the smiling face, a gentle smile appeared on his face. "Then I will trouble you. By the way, what's your name?" Garrett York." "Boss Chen Luo, just call me Garrett." Hearing this, Garrett whispered a little excitedly. "Gallo? Okay, I remember the name." Chen Luo nodded slightly and smiled. Although Chen Luo didn't care much about whether Nisha would come back again, Chen Luo found it quite interesting that the bartender named Garrett could have such a cleverness. Therefore, he doesn't mind giving the opponent a little chance. Handing over his contact information to the other party, looking at his excited face, suddenly, Chen Luo's heart moved, looked at the other party, and asked curiously, "Gallo, can you tell me, have some strange things happened near the bar recently? Has the business here been affected in any way compared to before?" After successfully taking over the Paradise Bar, Dickens' words echoed in his ears. Judging from what the other party said, it was obvious that something happened here that he didn't know. Sure enough, after hearing Chen Luo's question, Garrett's face turned pale, and there was a hint of fear in his eyes, and he said in a trembling voice, "That's right, boss, it's really not peaceful here recently. If I remember correctly, nearly 10 regular customers who frequented the bar have disappeared for no reason this month." As soon as these words came out, Chen Luo's eyes suddenly contracted. Chapter 10 Vampire Powder, Blood Clan Hallows. "Someone is missing? Do you know the specific situation? Tell me carefully." Chen Luo frowned slightly and said in a deep voice. According to what the other party said, if a vampire really disappeared for no reason during this period, it would definitely have an impact on his bar. After all, people come here to relax, and there are millions of dollars spent every month. It can be said that everyone is worth a lot of money. Definitely, this is not surprising. After all, they are all vampires, such creatures beyond common sense. It is not difficult for them to make money. Maybe they can't be worth billions like Dickon, but every month $10,000 is not difficult. This kind of income already belongs to the upper class in this era. Even in a city like New York, it is enough to live a chic life. Therefore, such customers are undoubtedly precious resources for his bar, and every loss of one means that his income will be reduced by 1 cent, which Chen Luo definitely cannot accept. Although he doesn't value money very much, since he lives in this world, it is difficult to move without enough money, especially in this country where money is paramount. Money is even more important. Therefore, Chen Luo immediately attached great importance to such a situation. Facing Chen Luo's inquiry, Garrett also knew everything, and immediately told him what he knew. It turned out that as early as a month ago, a new type of D product suddenly appeared on the underground market in New York. In less than a week, it became popular throughout New York and even spread outward. If it weren't for the low output of this kind of D product, I'm afraid it has spread to every corner of this country by now. Compared with the previous products, this product D is more addictive, and it is in the form of gray powder. Within a few hours after smoking, the physical fitness of the smoker will be greatly enhanced, and at the same time it will become bloodthirsty. Incomparable. In this month, because of taking this kind of D product, there have been hundreds of wounding cases in New York City out of thin air. It is said that these cases all have an astonishing commonality. That is, these wounded were all caused by bites on their necks, some were serious, and even tore them into pieces after they were bitten, which can be described as extremely cruel. Seeing such news, does it feel familiar? Yes, these cases are all related to vampires. After ingesting these new D products, the user will have the power of a vampire for a short period of time, but correspondingly, his consciousness will also drop a lot, which is also the root cause of the recent increase in wounding incidents. As for why smokers behave like this after taking this D product, although there is no definite evidence, many people have vague guesses. The reason why the other party was able to obtain the power of a vampire must be related to the vampires who disappeared during this period. The most likely reason is that someone made these vampires into this kind of D product and then sold them. Because of the unique function of this D product, it has been sought after by many Y gentlemen. So even if its selling price reaches tens of thousands of dollars, it is still in short supply in the market. Perhaps it is precisely because the profit of this kind of D product is too high that people are tempted by vampires and spend all their time squatting at the vampire gathering point so as to capture vampires to obtain income. After listening to the other party's description, Chen Luo frowned slightly, his face darkened. Now the situation is very clear. The other party just wants to capture vampires and make them into vampire powder for sale, so as to make profits. There is no doubt that the other party can have such behavior, obviously treating the vampire as prey, capturing and slaughtering at will. Such behavior is like livestock raised by human beings. If you look at it in the past, Chen Luo definitely won't say much. After all, it has nothing to do with him. So why worry about it? But it's different now. Now he is also a member of the vampires. In the eyes of these people, he is no different from other prey. So as long as there is a chance, he has no doubt that these people will also attack him. It seems that we cannot sit idly by. Thinking of this, Chen Luo's eyes flashed coldly, and he immediately made a decision. Regarding this group hiding in the dark and hunting vampires quietly, he must completely eliminate it. This is not only related to my own safety, but also whether I can solve this matter perfectly, but also related to my evaluation in the heart of that guy Dickon. After all, the reason why he let himself take over the Paradise Bar is to pass this matter to test own. Judging from the energy of the Frost family, it is not difficult to deal with a gang of drug dealers in this area. After all, as a billionaire with a net worth of billions, the energy in this city is definitely beyond ordinary people's imagination. Although what he said in front of the other party earlier gave Dickon a little understanding of him, but just wanting to become the second head of the Forest family just like this is a bit of a dream. So now this opportunity is rare. As long as he can handle it properly, then his ability will also be recognized by the other party, and by then, it must be the time for him to go further. Thinking of the rewards after completing the selection, Chen Luo immediately became motivated. And at the moment when he made up his mind, suddenly, a familiar voice came from his mind. Ding! It is detected that the host is about to launch an investigation into the disappearance of the vampire. Choose to start. Option 1. Let's kill. Massacre all those involved in this incident. Reward. Blood Clan Hallows, Blood Cup. Option 2. God has the virtue of being good at life. Secretly let the other party go. Reward. Halo of Our Lady. Chen Luo. You scold again. He is also very speechless about this broken system now, and he has to make a disgusting option every time, and he is powerless to complain about it. Without any hesitation, he chose the first option. Looking at the reward below, Chen Luo couldn't help but feel a glint of anticipation. Blood Clan Holy Artifact? Blood Cup? I don't know what kind of power it has, but you won't be disappointed if you think about it. P.S. The new book is first released, and it will be delivered on the first day. Ask for a wave of data. Thank you everyone. Chapter 11 Kane. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. After several days of recuperation, Kasong's severed palm had grown again. After the injury was healed, thinking of Chen Luo's order, Kasong did not dare to neglect, and immediately led his people into action. After some thought, Chen Luo decided to divide the manpower into 2 parts, and at the same time investigate the gang that was secretly hunting vampires. On the one hand, Kasong is in charge of leading the team to start looking for users of this new type of D product. As long as they can catch the other party for interrogation, they will have a chance to find the other party and go online, so as to follow the vines to find the other party's lair. But this method also has certain uncertainties, so just in case, on the other hand, Chen Luo personally led the search. After investigation, Chen Luo knew that the targets of the other party's attacks were solitary vampires, so he arranged corresponding personnel to observe in the dark at the corners of several streets centered on the bar. As long as you find any changes, report to him immediately. Because vampires are far superior to ordinary people, Chen Luo is not worried that they will be discovered by others. Definitely, meeting Blade along the way is another story. Fortunately, such a situation did not arise. In the process of Chen Luo leading people to squat, at a corner of the street near Paradise Bar, messy graffiti fills the walls on both sides, and the nearby streetlights flicker, but they can't illuminate this dark corner at all. Therefore, this place is often favored by some special people, love, and attention. It was as if at this moment, at the end of this corner, the pickup truck with a dark face was parked there silently, without any movement at all. If you walk in and check, it seems that there is no one there. But if it comes to the interior of the vehicle, it's another story. A young man with a thin figure, blonde hair shawl, and a pale complexion was sitting quietly in the driver's seat, staring at the street lights ahead without blinking, tapping his fingers unconsciously, as if he was waiting for something. The young man's name is Kane, and he is a gentleman. He has been smoking D for nearly 3 years. It is because of the year-round smoking that his body is getting thinner and his mental state is getting worse. Because of his abnormal body, his condition was finally discovered by people around him. His girlfriend abandoned him because of this, and all his relatives and friends also drifted away from him. Later, the company also fired him, and he had no income. Those who bought goods also avoided him. Originally, he also wanted to imitate others to make a living by robbing, but now his body has been completely eroded by product D. Not to mention robbing, even walking normally is somewhat difficult if he really dares to take action. In this country, from the perspective of the tradition of hospitality, the end is even more predictable. But fortunately, there is no unparalleled road. Just when he was desperate, a person appeared and completely changed his fate. The man approached him, handed him a pack of white powder, and told him that inhaling this powder could bring him some unexpected changes. Cain didn't seem to care about this. For him now, as long as he has something to suck, it is enough. As for other changes and what the other party said, he doesn't care anymore. As long as he can feel the happiness of the past again, even if he will go to hell the next moment, it doesn't matter. With this in mind, he couldn't wait to take a sip as soon as he got the item, but it was this attempt that opened the door to a new world for him. When he came back to his senses again and woke up, at the moment was under him, and there was already a tall and burly man lying there, his eyes wide open in horror, struggling desperately, as if he had encountered some devil. And on his neck, 2 bright red blood holes appeared in front of his eyes, but strangely, there was not a trace of blood gushing out of them. At this moment, the body of the other party has lost its temperature, and looking at the blood on his body, there is no doubt that he killed the other party. Just in doubt and panic, at this moment, the original man reappeared, explained everything to him, told him that all these changes were brought about by that bag of powder, and then told him the method of making the powder. When he heard that the powder he ingested was actually made of vampires, Cain resisted it at first, but because the addictiveness of this powder is far stronger than that of product D, and the powerful force attracted him even more. But he knew that these were only temporary. After experiencing such a powerful force, Cain already had the desire to become a vampire. As if he could see what he was thinking at this time, the other party also revealed his identity as a vampire in due course, and told Cain that as long as he did what they wanted, he would have a chance to become a member of the Blood Clan in the future. Hearing this promise, Cain definitely had no reason to refuse, and immediately agreed. Then, according to the request of the other party, a team was formed, and the vampires were arrested according to the location provided by the other party, so as to be made into a new type of D product for sale. Up to now, it has lasted for nearly a month, and during this month's hunting, the number of vampires who died in his hands has also doubled. As the techniques become more refined, his awe of creatures like vampires is gradually decreasing. To be honest, in his opinion, the strength of a creature like a vampire is nothing more than that. As long as you find the right time, it is not difficult to successfully hunt and kill them. Although his physical fitness is several times that of human beings, he also has various weaknesses such as fear of sunlight. If he hadn't longed for the 1,000-year lifespan of a vampire, he probably wouldn't have the idea of transforming into a vampire. However, this weakness is not insurmountable. Recently, he heard such a rumor. In this city, there is a special kind of vampire that lives by hunting vampires. It also has the advantages that other vampires do not have. That is, in this man named Blade, there is no vampire at all afraid of the sun and so on. Weaknesses, it can be said that there is no shortcoming. After knowing this news, Cain became very interested in Blade. If he could catch the other party for research and find out the secret that the other party is not afraid of the sun, then in his heart, a creature like a vampire would be truly perfect. Thinking of his chance to become such a creature, Cain couldn't help being very excited. Just as he was thinking about the future, the next moment, a high-pitched scream brought him back to reality. Looking up, at the corner where he was at the moment, at some point, 2 figures quietly appeared in front of him. Chapter 12, Discovering the Target. A tall black man cornered the opponent, holding a sharp knife in his hand, and threatened with a ferocious expression. "Don't talk. Hand over all the money." Wrapped by his huge figure, a beautiful woman with blonde hair, blue eyes, slender figure, and gorgeous clothes was looking at him in horror, and handed the bag over with trembling movements, and said in a trembling tone, "The money is here. Take it all. Don't kill me." Taking the satchel handed over by the other party, he opened it and looked at the thick stack of banknotes. The man couldn't help showing a greedy smile on his face. He nodded in satisfaction, took out the banknotes, and stuffed them all into his pocket. But that's not all. After getting what he wanted, he next set his sights on the person in front of him. His eyes swept across the graceful figure of the other party with some fiery eyes, and one hand unconsciously moved towards the other party's body, with a smile on his face. "The money has been given to you. What else do you want to do?" Looking at the other person's different eyes, the woman asked tremblingly, "What are you doing? You'll know later. I advise you to keep quiet, or the knife in my hand won't have eyes." As if she was really frightened by his words, the woman covered her mouth desperately and dared not say a word when she heard his threats. Seeing the opponent's actions, the man's face was even more excited. The dagger was inserted back into his waist, and his hands were tightly grasping the opponent's shoulders. In this dark corner, he was about to start an action. Looking at this scene, Kane subconsciously licked his lips in the interior of the pickup truck not far away, and began to appreciate it with great interest. To be honest, although robbery is not uncommon for him, it is the first time he sees him doing business directly on the street. However, just as he was about to appreciate it, the next moment, the situation suddenly changed. Seeing the man in front of him gradually approaching him, getting closer and closer to him, finally, the woman stopped crying. Looking at the other party with a half smile, her eyes gradually began to shrink, two long fangs gradually began to grow, her nails instantly became extremely sharp, and she firmly grasped the other party's head. There is no room for resistance at all, like fish on a chopping board. You? What the hell are you? Looking at the terrified eyes of the other party, her face was full of a sense of accomplishment for a successful hunt, and her heart was filled with joy. Since she was transformed, with this method, she has been able to return with a full reward every time. If it is said that a month ago, she would not have looked down on this kind of food at all. But who knows that it is very dangerous outside now, and every time she goes out to hunt, she has to take a great risk. So since she has gained something, she will not waste it. Want to know? Then go to hell and ask. After speaking, without giving him time to react, he immediately opened his mouth and bit down. No matter how desperately he struggled, the other party still ignored him, gulping down blood. Soon, with the flow of blood in his body, the strength of the man's struggle gradually weakened, and finally he collapsed to the ground powerlessly. Seeing the silent man lying on the ground at this moment, Kane, who was watching the whole process, was stunned for a moment, and then suddenly became excited. He also didn't expect that it was just a simple robbery, and it would be outrageous to develop into a robbery in the street. He didn't expect the reversal to come later. The identities between the hunter and the prey began to change. The woman who thought she was the prey turned out to be a vampire in the end, and seeing the skillful movements of the other party, it is obvious that this kind of thing has happened many times, and today this man is just a vampire. Just another unlucky guy. Originally, he thought that there was nothing to gain today, but he didn't expect that there would be a surprise. Now that the other party was about to leave, Kane immediately took out a small glass bottle from his pocket, opened the cap, and then leaned forward and took a deep breath. As the powder in the bottle was inhaled into the body, the next moment, when Kane opened his eyes again, the pupils were already covered in blood, ferocious fangs began to grow, and a steady stream of constant power gushed out from the body. Feeling his current strength, Kane opened a big gap at the corner of his mouth and touched the weapon in his arms. At that moment, he slowly opened the door and walked down. Click. Hearing this sudden sound, the woman stopped when she was about to leave and looked back. Seeing the person walking towards her slowly, as the person gradually appeared under the light, she finally saw the person's appearance clearly. Although she didn't know him, but through the characteristics of the other party that belonged to vampires at the moment, her originally tense body gradually relaxed. Looking at Kane, he asked curiously, "Where did you come from as a vampire? Why haven't you seen you before? Could it be a newly transformed newcomer?" When he came to the woman, Kane explained with a smile on his face. "That's right. It's been a few days since I transformed. Today is the first time I've gone out to look for food. I thought I'd found the prey, but I didn't expect it to be the owner. So that's it. Newcomer." After that, she looked at the car behind Kane, with a disdainful smile on her face. "No wonder you are so cautious. But it's not surprising, after all. Not every rookie vampire they are all as strong as Boss Chen Luo. You want to be like me, but you still need to practice for a while." Boss Chen Luo? A trace of doubt flashed in Kane's eyes, but he quickly left it behind. As he got closer and closer to the other party, the violent killing intent in his heart became more and more uncontrollable, and his right hand slowly moved into the clothes. "Explore. I won't tell you so much. It's not so safe to go out at night now. You better be careful. I'll go first." Worrying about any accidents, the woman turned around and left immediately after she said this. However, before she could take a step forward, the next moment, a sharp pain came from her chest. She lowered her head and looked at the sharp blade passing through her chest. She opened her mouth, and a trace of doubt flashed in her eyes. Before she could say a word, her consciousness sank into the darkness. A knife pierces the opponent's heart because the knife is not silver-plated, so there is no need to worry about the opponent's body being turned into ashes. Looking at the lifeless woman, the blood in Kane's eyes gradually faded. He licked his lips excitedly, then dragged the corpse and walked towards the car. After a while, with the roar of the engine, the car started to start, and then drove towards the distance. And not long after the car left, Chen Luo's figure slowly walked out in the darkness in a corner. Looking at the back of the car gradually going away, the look in his eyes was inexplicable. Chapter 13. Finally waiting for you. To be honest, Chen Luo never imagined that his luck would be so good. He just chose a place to wait at random, and he could have such a harvest. For the past 3 days, every night, He and his men searched for this group, but after searching for 3 consecutive days without finding anything, Chen Luo wondered if the other party had changed places. Suddenly there was a turning point. Originally, when Kane appeared, Chen Luo also thought that the other party was a vampire, but the next second he was slapped in the face. It was precisely because the incident happened so suddenly that he had no time to react, and the other party successfully hunted. After he came back to his senses and thought about it carefully, he suddenly felt that this was also a good thing. After all, after the opponent successfully hunts, the next step must be to transport the corpse out for processing, and then make it into vampire powder for sale. In this way, as long as he followed up secretly, he could follow the clues and find the location of the opponent's base camp. And with his current speed 20 times that of ordinary people, there is absolutely no possibility of losing track. Thinking of this, Chen Luo made a decision in his heart. Afterwards, Chen Luo's figure flashed, turning into a black shadow and blending into the night, walking past the top of the tall buildings in the city, keeping a close eye on the target vehicle below, and followed closely behind. Soon, as the vehicle continued to drive, the surrounding buildings gradually became sparse, and the surroundings were quiet, without the lively scene before. It was obvious that they had come to the outskirts of the city now, and the surroundings were deserted. Only a medium-sized machinery manufacturing plant in front of them was brightly lit, and the dull sound of the machines was sounding, as if they were working all night. Seeing this, Chen Luo couldn't help but feel a little funny. You must know that employees in this country are notorious for not working overtime, but you start working all night at such a late hour. Fortunately, the location here is relatively remote. Otherwise, the anomaly here might have been discovered by someone long ago. How could it be possible? It seems that I have to thank you. Seeing the vehicle parked at the gate of the factory, Chen Luo had a smile on his face. After sending a message to Kasong, asking him to bring someone over, Chen Luo moved his feet and instantly crossed a distance of hundreds of meters. The 2 guards outside the door did not react at all. The next moment, Chen Luo had already arrived factory top. When he came to a nearby skylight, Chen Luo didn't enter rashly. Since he had already found the opponent's lair, he was not in a hurry to do it. On the contrary, Chen Luo was also very curious about how these people made the powder. So he was going to take advantage of this time to take a good look. Soon, Kane strode forward, and the 2 people behind him carried the corpse that had been dead for a long time and followed closely behind him. Along the way, everyone looked at the corpse behind him with excitement on their faces. Boss, have you gained anything again? As expected of Boss Kane, he is really amazing. Every time he takes a shot, he can return with full rewards. Unlike us, we have missed many times. Great. We finally have new materials. If there is no new material in another day, our previous reserves will be exhausted. However, we have been hunting too many times these days. Now those vampires are on guard, but they are not as easy to catch as before. If things go on like this, our output may also be much weaker. Boss Kane, what do you think we should do? Facing the question from his subordinates, Kane snorted coldly and said, even if the output is reduced, our profit cannot be changed. In the future, I will double the transaction price. The current price is still too low. After finishing speaking, a strong confidence appeared on his face. You have also seen the effect of our product. What other products on the market are comparable? That is the ability that allows ordinary people to have the ability of vampires. Such an effect, even if the price is doubled, it is cheap. Hearing this, a trace of greed flashed across everyone's faces, and they all nodded in agreement. That's right. I think we sold it cheap before, but now it's the normal price. After all, only our family owns such a product. Don't worry about not being able to sell it. Don't talk about doubling it. I think there are people who want to buy it even if it is doubled. Those poor people, if they can't afford it, let them go. And we can not only sell this product, maybe we can also consider catching a living vampire and selling it in the future. I think there should be many rich people who are interested in this legendary creature. That's a good idea. David, you're still smart. You're worthy of graduating from a prestigious school. After chatting for a while, everyone started working. First, the 2 people carried the corpse into a closed room, accompanied by heavy chopping sounds, and then another sound that made people feel a little palpitating, like the sound of scraping bones with steel knives. Chen Luo couldn't help feeling his scalp tingle. An hour later, as the door opened, a person walked in. When he came out, he was carrying a huge amount of black bag in his hand. Boss, the first step is done. Got it. Let's start the next step. Kane waved his hand and said, yes. The man then came to a machine, opened the handbag, put all the contents in it, and finally turned on the button, and the machine started running immediately. Relying on his strong eyesight, Chen Luo clearly saw the things in the handbag, nothing but bloody bones. Thinking of the sound he heard just now, Chen Luo suddenly had a guess. Taking a deep breath, when he opened his eyes again, the killing intent in his eyes was completely undisguised. For these evil spirits, sending them to hell is their only destination. Although Chen Luo also admits that vampires are indeed unpopular, and their habit of feeding on human blood is indeed disgusting, so he will not have any opinion on Blade's behavior of hunting vampires. But Kane's approach completely broke the bottom line. After hunting vampires, they removed all their flesh and bones, leaving the whole body of bones to be crushed into powder and sold outside. This kind of behavior is even more cruel than killing vampires. It is no different from a ghost. And it's just the beginning. When their power gradually expands, Chen Luo, who is a vampire, also has the risk of being targeted by them. So even if it's for himself, this group of people must die. Just thought of this, outside the factory gate. Boom! Who are you? With the sound of 2 gunshots, Chen Luo's expression changed instantly, and he turned his head to look behind him. Chapter 14. Chen Luo makes a move, all wiped out. Outside the factory gate at this moment, a group of dozens of people in black suits with sturdy figures and pistols in their hands were standing there. But at the front of the crowd, Kassan's figure like a giant bear was extremely abrupt. After killing the guards at the gate with 2 shots, Kassan didn't stop at all and ordered decisively, "Surround this factory and don't let anyone escape."
Yes.
The next moment, dozens of black shadows sprang out and disappeared immediately. In less than a minute, everyone had surrounded the factory in front of them, with solemn expressions, ready to go. Looking at Kassan, who was stationed at the gate, Chen Luo nodded in satisfaction. Now that everything has been arranged, it's his turn to play next. Meanwhile, inside the factory, at the moment when they heard the gunshot, everyone who was originally excited changed their expressions and instantly became nervous. "Boss, it's bad. This factory has been surrounded by vampires. They're here to take revenge on us." Looking at the picture on the monitor, Kassan stared straight ahead and grinned. His ferocious fangs glowed white in the night. Coupled with the other party's burly body like a giant bear, it gave him a powerful force. Oppression. Hearing this, Kane's face darkened quickly, and without thinking about it, he immediately took the product he had just made in his hand and said loudly, "Everyone, don't panic. Don't forget, it's not like we don't have the power to contend with each other now. You all remember, vampires are just our prey, and there is nothing to be afraid of." After being reminded by him, everyone came to their senses. Looking at the finished product on the table, their hearts suddenly fell silent. Yes, as long as we ingest these powders, we will have the same power as vampires. From this point of view, we don't need to be afraid. Maybe this is still a good thing. Think about it, everyone. So many vampires are coming to your door. Isn't that a ready-made raw material? If we catch them all, we don't have to worry about production anymore. Then what are we waiting for? Go out and kill those bloody vampires now. While talking, everyone who couldn't wait immediately picked up the bottle on the table, opened the bottle cap, and then inhaled all the powder in it. The next moment, with the power gradually emerging from the body, including Kane, hundreds of people let out a roar in unison, blood flashed in the pupils, and the long fangs were exposed in the air, looking ferocious and bloodthirsty. "Go. Let's kill those vampires." A ferocious smile flashed across Kane's face. He waved his hand, and immediately led everyone towards the door. Click. The next moment, with the clear sound of glass breaking, a black shadow flashed past the heads of everyone, and then fell steadily in front of them. "Sorry, this road is blocked." Looking up, looking at Kane and the others, Chen Luo showed a smile on his face. "Also, I don't think you can get out of here, because this is the grave I chose for you." As soon as the words came out, it seemed as if they had heard something funny, and the next moment, everyone burst into laughter. "Haha, kid, who do you think you are? Just because you want to kill us? It's just a little vampire. Now we all have the same power as you. Don't you want to say that you can deal with all of us by yourself? I think this kid is looking for death. Boss, I think when we get rid of these vampires, we'll put this kid first. Then let me crush this kid's bones in the machine with my own hands. See what the products made from this kid's bones look like. I think it's a bit too wasteful to do this. This kid is not bad looking. If we sell him to a rich woman, maybe we can earn more." "That's right. Then sell him." Just as everyone was discussing happily, suddenly, a cold voice sounded. "Finished?" Chen Luo's face remained unchanged, and he put on his gloves unhurriedly. "If you finish, then it's time for me to give you a ride." "You kid, how dare you speak hard in front of us?" "Well, I want to see, how do you give me a ride?" Behind Kane, a 2-meter-tall man with a bloodthirsty grin on his face slowly walked towards Chen Luo, constantly twisting his fists, the crisp sound of bones colliding, and his body was filled with a fierce aura. Coming in front of Chen Luo, the strong man grinned and shouted, "Die to me!" Then he punched Chen Luo, just like Kasang back then, straight at Chen Luo's head. Others also had excited smiles on their faces, as if they couldn't wait to see the scene where Chen Luo's head was smashed with a punch. Whoosh! The next moment, before everyone could react, Chen Luo suddenly turned into an afterimage and disappeared before everyone's eyes. When he reappeared, he had already appeared behind the strong man. Well? Then, a bloodstain emerged from the strong man's neck, and he waved his arm unconsciously twice. With a bang, the corpse instantly separated and fell at Chen Luo's feet. Quiet, unparalleled silence. Looking at the headless corpse at Chen Luo's feet, everyone opened their mouths and looked at Chen Luo in shock, all speechless. They never thought, just for a moment, the other party didn't even have a chance to resist, and died instantly in Chen Luo's hands. Is such a ghostly speed really something a vampire can possess? Since the opponent has such a speed, how could they not? This unscientific monster. Run, everyone. This guy is a monster. Finally, when everyone came back to their senses, without even thinking about it, they immediately wanted to turn around and run away. Oh, do you think you can escape? Seeing this, Chen Luo sneered, then moved his feet and disappeared in place again. A black shadow wandered around the arena. At this moment, Chen Luo was already at full speed. With his speed 4 times higher than that of ordinary vampires, the other party had no room to escape, and Chen Luo chased him in the blink of an eye. A series of cold lights flashed, but in just a few minutes, accompanied by one after another of screams, the heads rolled down to the ground one after another, and the body collapsed to the ground weakly. Soon, when Chen Luo reappeared, everyone in the factory except Kane, who was the leader, was slaughtered by Chen Luo. Hundreds of heads rolled down on the ground, and bright red blood flowed on the ground, soon covering the ground completely, like a sea of blood. Chen Luo stood in the middle of the sea of blood. Ignoring Kane, who was full of fear in front of him, took out his mobile phone expressionlessly and dialed the number. Boss, come in. It's all settled. Chapter 15. The Ability of the Blood Cup. The next moment, with a loud bang, the door opened instantly, and then Kasong led the crowd in. Hiss. After seeing the scene in the factory at this moment, everyone gasped in unison. Even though they were vampires, they had seen many killings on weekdays, but this was the first time they had seen such a hell-like scene on Earth today. Hundreds of heads rolled on the ground, floating on the ground's continuously flowing blood plasma. Even though they were dead, those eyes filled with fear still stimulated their nerves and made them shudder. Why are you still standing there? Chen Luo's voice sounded. His eyes turned and he signaled, "Take this man back. He is the leader of these people. You should be able to ask something valuable from his mouth. After you understand it, deal with him bar. I'll leave first, and Kasong, I'll leave this factory to you. Remember, don't leave any trouble." Kasong came back to his senses and nodded quickly. "I see. Then leave it to you. I'll go back first." With a wave of his hand, Chen Luo moved and disappeared in place instantly. After a long time, seeing that Chen Luo had disappeared, everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief, and their tense bodies also relaxed a lot. But it's not their fault. In fact, after seeing the hell-like massacre scene caused by Chen Luo, the image of Chen Luo in their hearts has completely changed. Maybe they didn't notice, but now in their hearts, Chen Luo's majesty has already surpassed Kasong, who they have been with for many years, and even faintly came to the same position as Dickon. It has to be said that sometimes killing is indeed a very effective method. Looking at the people who were still standing aside, Kasong turned his head, frowned, and said loudly, "What are you waiting for? Get to work. Don't keep Boss Chen Luo waiting." Everyone woke up like a dream and quickly started to get busy. But Kasong came to Kane, who was still motionless, and the other party had no thought of resisting, so he was led out of the gate by him. Afterwards, after everyone poured gasoline all over the factory, they let out a fire. The next moment, the whole factory was on fire, and the bright flames instantly illuminated the night sky. Looking down from the sky, it looked like a mass of huge amounts of bonfires in general. Fortunately, the factory is on the outskirts of the city, and there are no people around, let alone disturbed by anyone. After everyone left, the flames burned until dawn and gradually extinguished. After a night of burning, the factory has now become a ruin, and all the traces left in it have been wiped out. The traces of Chen Luo and others have been completely wiped out. Bury it. When I got home, I cleaned it briefly and just walked out of the bathroom. Suddenly, the system prompt sounded. Ding. The selection is complete, and the reward is now issued. Would you like to receive the Blood Clan Hallows, the Blood Cup? Knowing that Kasong had cleaned up the last person, Chen Luo smiled and said without hesitation, "Receive." As soon as the words fell, the next moment, a golden wine glass full of classic atmosphere appeared out of thin air and fell into Chen Luo's palm. Picking up the wine glass and putting it in front of his eyes, Chen Luo asked curiously for a moment, "System, what is the function of this blood cup?" Hint, the host can drip his own blood into the blood cup, and when the blood cup recognizes its owner, it will know its function. Nodding in understanding, Chen Luo didn't hesitate, stretched out his index finger, sharp nails popped out quickly, and then gently stroked his palm. The next moment, blood flowed from his palm, and then slowly fell into the blood cup. At the moment when the blood fell into the wine glass, as the blood was absorbed by the blood glass, the brilliance of blood burst forth, and then, a blood light suddenly appeared, and then quickly fell into Chen Luo's mind. Boom! As the light of blood entered his mind, various functions about the blood cup began to emerge. Not long after, when Chen Luo opened his eyes again and looked at the blood cup in his hand, a flash of bewilderment flashed in his eyes. Now he has fully understood the usage of the blood cup. According to the memory in his mind, this Blood Clan's sacred artifact came from another world, and in that world, Blood Clan is divided into 13 clans, and their strength and status are clearly divided according to the concentration of blood. From weak to strong, there are 6 levels of Baron, Viscount, Earl, Marquis, Duke, and Prince. Vampires below that are all considered as unpopular, and there are 3 levels above the Prince. They are the 3rd generation of vampires who are the founders of the 13 clans, the 2nd generation of vampires, and finally Cain, who is the source of vampires. The Blood Clan's sacred artifact was created by 3 generations of vampires and kept by the 13 clans for generations. Each of them has incredible functions. Just using one of them is enough to make the world turbulent. Just like the blood cup in Chen Luo's hand, after knowing its ability, although Chen Luo had already prepared for it, Chen Luo couldn't help being a little surprised. There are 2 types of abilities for blood cups. One is the ability called the source of blood. As long as you put the blood cup into clear water or even any liquid, it will be converted into blood in a short while. If you put it into the sea and give it enough time, with the ability of the blood cup, it can even turn the entire sea into a sea of blood. Undoubtedly, with the existence of the blood cup in the future, Chen Luo no longer has to buy plasma, and the matter of sucking human blood is not in his consideration. Only 2 bottles of mineral water are enough to satisfy him. It is extremely convenient for a day's activities. As for the other ability, it is the core of the blood cup. This ability is called Blood Feast. As long as the target person's blood is dripped into the blood cup, and then transformed by the blood cup, as long as it is drunk, the opponent's ability can be obtained for a short time. What's even more frightening is that if the target is killed, then the blood cup is soaked in all the opponent's blood. After the blood is completely absorbed, a cup of special blood will be produced. As long as you drink it, you can permanently get all the opponent's abilities. Seeing this, Chen Luo's eyes brightened, and his face couldn't help showing joy. This ability came at a really timely time. Originally, he was still thinking about what to do to eliminate the vampire's weakness of being afraid of the sun. Now that he has the blood cup, he undoubtedly has certainty. Although Chen Luo appreciates a fighter like Blade, if there is really no other way to eliminate his weakness, then he can only say sorry to the other party. Various plans flashed in his mind, playing with the blood cup in his hand. For a moment, Chen Luo's heart was full of joy. Chapter 16. Not only strike, but strike hard. Songhui Academy members were surprised. No one expected the boss, Yifeng, to stand up. Is that so? Then let's give it a try. Upon hearing Yifeng's words, Xiaowu was immediately filled with a combative spirit. Since graduating from Notting Academy, she had hardly had any chances for a brawl. Oh, that's not right. Even at Notting Academy, she didn't, except for the first 3 years. In the later 3 years, everyone addressed her as Sister Xiaowu. She was bored to death. As for going to Shrek Academy now, she wasn't exactly thrilled about it. Then bring it on. Yifeng, clad in Songhui Academy's attire, walked over. At this moment, he had a peculiar smile on his lips. There was a time when this girl had pinned him to the ground and rubbed him into the dirt. She not only stole his meticulously made bed, but she even humiliated him. If it weren't for hiding in the carriage that night, he would have probably frozen to death. Since she seemed to enjoy fighting so much, he would give her a good fight today. Bring it on. Xiaowu looked straight at Yifeng and felt that he seemed familiar. She must have seen him somewhere before. But these details were insignificant now. What mattered was that he also wanted to fight. So they'd have a real fight. When it came to brawling, she had never been defeated. Xiaowu charged out swiftly. She was ready to slam this arrogant ant from Songhui Academy to the ground with a lumbar arch. Then she would ruthlessly smash him down. It was her close-range killer move. Xiao-san, can Xiaowu handle it? Should boss die and I go out and help her? Seeing Xiaowu charge alone into the heart of Songhui Academy's camp, the fatty immediately asked Tang-san a question. If something went wrong, it would be terrible. Yeah, Xiao-san, are you really that confident about Xiaowu taking on Songhui Academy by herself? Ning Rongrong spoke from the side. Just relax. When it comes to brawling, truly no one can beat her. Just wait for Songhui Academy's people to howl in pain on the ground, Tang-san said. At that moment, Tang-san had his back turned to Xiaowu. He was leisurely sipping tea. The big sister from Notting Academy was fierce in a fight. There was no dispute about that. Back then in the academy, he was the only one who could suppress her. Everyone else was just a victim. This Songhui Academy would probably not be much different. Bang! Suddenly, at that moment, a black shadow flew over. Clang! With pink clothes and braids, It smashed right onto the table where Shrek's group was seated, her face showing an expression of intense pain. It was Xiaowu. Tang San was in the middle of drinking his tea. At that moment, his expression was stiff. The rest of Shrek's group was the same. Shock was evident in each of their eyes. Something was off. Why was Xiaowu being tossed over like trash? Xiao San's earlier comments were not an exaggeration. They were true. Xiaowu really did possess strong combat skills. Slap. On Shrek's side, everyone stood up with a bang. Hey, you little brat, are you courting death? Dai Mubai glared coldly at Yifeng. To dare to strike a member of Shrek in public was simply asking for trouble. Boss Dai, what are we waiting for? Let's go beat the crap out of him. The one in red attire was the fatty. He was fuming with rage at this moment. The member of their academy had been humiliated like this, and it even ruined their table of food. We must give that ant-like Zhonghui Academy a taste of their own medicine. You're the ones who've lived too long, deliberately tripping the server, splashing our teacher with a headful of soup, and even splattering other female students. And the disgusting way you looked at us when you entered. Have you never seen a woman in your life? If the tiger does not show its might, you really think Zhonghui Academy is a sick cat you can bully? Su Liuli said, her face ablaze with anger. Originally, going out with Brother Yifeng was supposed to be a very happy occasion. Who would have thought they'd run into such barbarians? That's right, Brother Yi, just say the word, and we will all fight. Zhonghui Academy was united like never before. Heh, you really are full of yourselves. Who was looking at you just now? But in my eyes, Dai Mubai, Zhonghui Academy really is just a sick cat. A smile played on the corners of Dai Mubai's mouth as he spoke. His eyes were filled with boundless arrogance, as if everything in the world was beneath him. Indeed, his true identity was that of a lofty prince of the empire. What was Zhonghui Academy? And what were its students? You. On Zhonghui Academy's side, everyone's hair seemed to have been set on fire, burning fiercely. Only the millennium-old tortoise, Yizhizu, remained silent at this time, his face showing no emotion. Perhaps he was enduring silently, or maybe it was the calm before the volcanic eruption. Then, I really must experience young Master Dai's prowess. Yifeng smiled lightly, looking towards Dai Mubai. Bring it on. Dai Mubai clenched his fists tight. For some reason, at that moment, a chill inexplicably surged from deep within his heart. The source was the boy before him. He seemed younger than himself, but for some reason, his smile was filled with true disdain and confidence, as if he could trample on him at will. Soon, the two sides engaged in battle. Without a doubt, in just one breath, Dai Mubai was at a disadvantage. I'll take care of this. Ma Hongjun launched a stealth attack from the side. Boom. The next second, both men were kicked and sent flying, neatly lying on the ground. Wow, Big Brother is so powerful. On Zhonghui Academy's side, both the men and women's eyes shone brightly. They admired Yifeng to the utmost. Ah, Evil Eye White Tiger, possess me. Dai Mubai, just sent flying, felt an immense insult and raged, immediately summoning his martial soul. Evil Fire Phoenix. Merge. A flame rose slowly. The temperature inside the restaurant instantly rose several degrees. How dare they make them, the brothers, suffer such an embarrassment. Today, they would let the other party know what consequences are. Soul Master, Lord Soul Master, my humble establishment can't withstand this destruction. The shopkeeper was trembling beside them. With this momentum, his establishment might be reduced to ashes in the next second. What are you afraid of? I'll cover all the losses tonight. Dai Mubai spoke directly to him. What was this little shop to him? He couldn't cover it? He, Dai Mubai, had plenty of money. Oh, you will foot the bill for all the damages tonight? Are you serious? Yifeng looked at Dai Mubai. His mouth curved into a playful smile. Would I lie? Everyone present can testify. What's the matter, kid? Are you afraid to match martial souls with me? If you admit defeat now and crawl between my legs, I, Dai Mubai, might consider sparing your dignity. Dai Mubai spoke with an air of superiority. Fight? Of course, we're going to fight. Yifeng's smile was unrestrained. Fight, and not just fight, but beat them severely. Tang San's teammate, Xiaowu's teammate. It was all good if they did not provoke him, but once they did, they must be oppressively crushed. Chapter 17 Blood God Plan. Just 2 hours before Chen Luo's arrival. After several days of deciphering, Deacon finally analyzed the content of the document he found in the library. The Blood God descends. Ever since he learned from the records that there was a blood god in the history of vampires, Deacon immediately became interested. According to the records, the blood god has a powerful power that surpasses all vampires. Not only does it not have all the weaknesses of vampires, but it also has the terrifying ability to manipulate blood. In ancient times, it also caused boundless turmoil. If he can successfully summon the blood god to descend, with the power of the blood god, then the day when he will rule all mankind is not far away. And according to the information he just deciphered, in order to successfully summon the blood god to descend, it needs the blood of 12 pure-blooded vampire clans, and Daywalker as a sacrifice in the Palace of Eternal Night to complete the ceremony and summon the blood god. After knowing this information, Dickon immediately had a plan in mind. It just so happens that he has also been displeased with those old guys in the council for a long time, and has long wanted to find an opportunity to get rid of them. Now there is such an opportunity to use waste, and he will definitely not miss it. But it is not without exception. He can bear with others for the time being, but this old guy Getaro, he does not want to see him again for a moment. Plus at the moment Chen Luo just happened to stand out. For him who was slaughtered overnight the deeds of hundreds of people, handing over this kind of thing to him, he is also very relieved. As for what he promised before, as long as Chen Luo can solve the problem at the bar, he will let him take over. If he was sincere before, but after hearing Chen Luo's exaggerated deeds, his thoughts already changed. Obviously, at this moment, in Dickon's heart, he was already faintly afraid of Chen Luo. So there was also a hint of temptation in the question just now. If Chen Luo's answer shows any hesitation, then what is waiting for him is probably the army of hundreds of thousands of vampires in this building. For an existence that might threaten his status, no matter how talented the other party is, Dickon will never spare the other party's life. But fortunately, Chen Luo's reaction made him very satisfied. After confirming the other party's loyalty, he also assuredly handed over the task of arresting Getaro to the other party. At the same time, he secretly made a decision in his heart. As long as Chen Luo completes this mission, then he will keep his promise and inherit Chen Luo's position left by Kuin. And with the help of Chen Luo, plus the whole card that he has hidden for many years, it is not impossible to successfully catch Blade. With the blood of Blade, the Daywalker, and the sacrifices of other council elders, Dickon is already full of confidence in his next plan. It seems that my plan to rule all mankind is not far away. Imagining the beautiful future, in the luxurious apartment, Dickon laughed wildly. At the same time, Chen Luo walked out of the building entrance, turned around and looked at the top floor of the building behind him. His eyes seemed to span a distance of hundreds of meters. Dickon's smile appeared in his mind. In the next moment, Chen Luo slowly sneered at the corner of his mouth. The turbulent killing intent churned in his heart, and Chen Luo's eyes became more and more cold. Although the other party hid it well, in the conversation just now, Chen Luo could still feel a trace of murderous intent rising from the other party's body unintentionally, and he is not a fool. Idea. It seems that Dickon is starting to fear me, but that's not a bad thing for me. Originally, Chen Luo still felt a little headache about how to reasonably seize the opponent's power, but now it seems that since the opponent is afraid of him, if this matter is used well, it may be of great help to him. Various plans flashed through his mind, and then, looking at the building behind him, Chen Luo's eyes flickered, and he turned to leave. The next day, at the entrance of the building, just after nightfall, Dickon walked out of the gate, got into a luxury car, and quickly drove towards his destination. Soon, at the entrance of a building not inferior to Edgewood, the speed of the car gradually began to weaken, all the way to the underground parking lot smoothly, and then the door slowly opened. It's up to you next time. Smiling, he said something to Chen Luo. After getting an affirmative answer, Dickon nodded in satisfaction, then turned around and walked towards the destination with his female companion. Looking at the back of the other party leaving, Chen Luo came back to his senses, looked away, and asked lightly, Bluto, which car is the target? Boss Chen Luo, it's over there. Hearing this, the bearded and burly man in the driver's seat was shocked. His face tightened. He quickly pointed in a certain direction and said in a trembling voice. He couldn't help but not be afraid. After all, Chen Luo had a reputation for viciousness now, and his way of killing by cutting off his head every now and then was a little scary even to a vampire. When he talked about the other party, he unconsciously respected him a lot. In addition, someone nicknamed Chen Luo a butcher in private. When Chen Luo heard the news, he couldn't laugh or cry. Looking in the direction pointed by the other party, Chen Luo finally found the goal of his trip. Not far from him, a dark, low-key car appeared in his eyes. Chen Luo understood that this car was the car of Getaro, the chairman of the Vampire Council, and the goal of his trip is Getaro himself. In order to find a reasonable excuse, today Dickon announced a meeting in the name of capturing Blade, so as to take this opportunity to get close to Getaro. Now Deacon and other members of the parliament are meeting on the top floor. When the meeting is over and Getaro comes to the underground parking lot and wants to leave, Chen Luo will take advantage of this moment to make a move. Chen Luo, who had read the script a long time ago, knew what would happen to Getaro after he was arrested, but it was not a bad thing for him. As long as Dickon gets rid of the entire council, taking advantage of the chaos within the 12 clans, that is the best time for him to take the opportunity to integrate the entire vampire forces. Thinking of this, Chen Luo couldn't help but look forward to it. While Chen Luo was waiting, a fierce quarrel was going on in a classical-looking conference room on the top floor of the building. Chapter 18. Deacon's Proposal. No. I don't agree with this plan. That's right. The blood god is only recorded in the book. Whether it really exists is still unknown. Dickon, are you so sure that you can successfully summon the blood god? If that's the case, don't talk anymore. Dickon, if that's what you came to us for, then I think this meeting can be over. After everyone expressed their opinions one after another, Gitaro waved his hand to signal everyone to pause, looked at Dickon sitting aside, and said calmly. Seeing this, Dickon smiled and said helplessly, then let's not talk about this. Then, he changed the topic again and continued. But apart from this, I have one more thing to discuss with you. Regarding Blade, how do you think it should be handled? Huh? What do you mean? Looking at Gitaro and other members of the council, Dickon had a half-smile on his face. Why? Haven't you thought of taking revenge after being hunted by Blade for so many years? Or do you want to wait until Blade kills us all? Did you know you regretted it? If you don't want to be killed by Blade, then we should also unite. As long as you successfully capture Blade, you don't have to worry about your clan being massacred in the future. What's more, you all know the situation of Blade. He is the only Daywalker we know. If we can study the secrets of Blade, maybe each of us will no longer be afraid of the sun. Don't you want such a result? With Dickon's persuasive temptation, gradually, everyone's faces showed signs of emotion. Even Gitaro, who had always been at odds with Dickon, was the same. But that's not surprising. Everyone present was at least 100 years old. Except for Dickon, who was transformed into a non-pure vampire, everyone else was born as a pure-blood vampire. Since they were born, they have lived in the darkness all day long. Although they have been used to the darkness for a long time, they still have a longing in their hearts for the sunshine that they have never seen before. Looking directly at Dickon, Gitaro said in a deep voice, What do you want us to do? He also knew Dickon's character very well, knowing that the other party must have a bigger conspiracy in his heart after throwing out this tempting proposal, so he was also secretly vigilant in his heart. Sure enough, the other party smiled slightly and said, Since we want to unite to capture Blade, it must be possible for the entire Blood Clan force to be possible. Just like the two Blood Clan countries in the West and North Bear Country, the Blood Clan in this country has been scattered for too long. I think it's time to unite. As soon as these words came out, everyone's expression changed. Gitaro looked ugly, looked at Dickon with a sneer and said, So you mean, you want to be our king? Dickon Frost. In this regard, Dickon shrugged and looked at everyone confidently. Other than that, I can't think of any other way. After all here, I'm the only one who has the deepest dealings with Blade. Over the years, those of you under your command have never even had time to hide from Blade. If you were to decide, I'm afraid we would have been slaughtered by Blade long ago. So I advise you to recognize the reality, old guys. This era is no longer suitable for you. Let us young people handle it. After finishing speaking, Dickon laughed arrogantly. Seeing his defiant face, everyone sneered and looked at each other with disdain. It's impossible. Dickon, don't forget your own identity. You're just a bastard vampire. With your identity, you want to be recognized by us? How naive. That's right. Our 12 clans are purebred vampires. How can we be loyal to a bastard like you? Dickon, let me know my identity. Who do you think you are? You're just a bastard vampire. You're not qualified to be our king. We cannot accept this proposal. If you want to unite, the one who decides must be a member of our 12 clans. Only pure-blooded vampires are eligible to become our king, Gitaro said calmly. At the same time, in the depths of his eyes looking at Dickon, there was an indelible arrogance and disdain. As pure-blood vampires, they naturally have their own pride. For a bastard vampire like Dickon who has become a monk halfway, allowing him to talk with himself and others in a conference room is already the limit, and now they still want to ride on their heads. How could they agree? Dickon saw all the disdainful gazes from Gitaro. His heart was full of murderous intent, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. After trying to calm himself down, Dickon stood up indifferently and looked at everyone. Since everyone has already made their choice, there is no need for us to continue talking. As for the arrest of Blade, let's do what we can. Hearing this, the other people present also looked confident. Dickon, do you think we wouldn't have the ability to capture Blade without you? You think too highly of yourself. With the strength of your family, you want to compete with our 12 clans? You are really confident. Then let's compare. Dickon, let's see whose hands Blade will end up in. With a cold snort, everyone ignored them and turned around to leave the meeting room. Seeing the back of Gitaro leaving, Dickon's eyes became colder and colder, and at the same time, he became more and more looking forward to what will happen next. Don't worry, Gitaro, you're just the first. Don't even think about running away. Soon, I will send them down to accompany you. Sentenced to the death penalty silently in his heart, Dickon walked slowly towards the parking lot without stopping. On the other side, after hearing the movement not far away, Chen Luo, who had been waiting for a long time, suddenly became refreshed and quickly checked it carefully. At the moment after the meeting, everyone left the garage by car, but these people were not the target of Chen Luo's trip, so they ignored them. Until the end. When Chen Luo saw the familiar figure coming out, his eyes were fixed, his muscles tensed up, and he was ready to strike at any time. Chapter 19 Successful Arrest. As the president of the Vampire Council, Gyataro is still very famous when traveling. 10 vampire squads in well-fitted suits surrounded him in the center. Their gazes kept shooting around, their expressions guarded, and they did not dare to relax. As for this team, Dickon also mentioned in the information given that the configuration of all pureblood vampires is a level higher than other non-pure blood vampires in terms of physical fitness. In addition, vampires are naturally strong perception ability can greatly prevent danger from happening. In addition, this team is also a member of the Gyataro family. They have been trained since they were young. Whether it is loyalty or individual quality, they are far beyond what ordinary vampires can compare. Besides, looking at the bulging waist of the opponent, it is obvious that he is carrying a weapon. If the front is tough, Chen Luo is naturally not afraid of one-on-one, but if the opponent joins forces, it will be a big threat to him. Therefore, just in case, Chen Luo hid in a corner that no one cared about early on. As long as the opponent came to the side of the vehicle and relaxed, with his speed, he was very sure to annihilate the opponent in one fell swoop. As long as this team is eliminated, Gyataro is the only one left, then no matter what, he will not be able to escape from his grasp. In order not to be discovered by the team as much as possible, Chen Luo is a full 20 meters away from the opponent's vehicle. Although it looks a bit long, at Chen Luo's speed, it only takes less than a second for him to come to the other party's side, so it will not have any impact on him. Everything was just as Chen Luo expected, and the distance was obviously beyond their perception range. Therefore, while escorting Gyataro closer to the vehicle, the expressions of the team members gradually relaxed. It's now. At this moment, Chen Luo's eyes froze, his figure turned into an afterimage and disappeared on the spot, and he rushed towards Gyataro's direction. After perceiving the movement, everyone subconsciously turned their heads to look. Their faces changed drastically, and they subconsciously shouted, "Not good. There is an attack?" Before they finished speaking, the next moment, everyone felt a sudden sharp pain in their necks, and then, under Gyataro's shocked gaze, all 10 heads fell, and together with the body, they instantly turned into ashes. This is. Looking at the black ashes floating all over the ground, Gyataro's already pale face suddenly became extremely pale, and there was even a little fear in his eyes. He is well aware of the strength of this team, which is an absolute elite level, and each member's skill is far superior to that of ordinary vampires. If the team joins hands, it will not be a problem to deal with hundreds of vampires at the same time. In his opinion, with the strength of this team, even the legendary blade is not without the possibility of confrontation. However, such an elite team was completely slaughtered in just a few seconds, and there was no room for resistance. This kind of strength made him fall into despair. As for such a one-sided battle, Bruto, who was waiting in Dickon's car, completely saw it. Seeing Chen Luo's ghostly skills, his eyes were also full of horror at this moment, and he widened in disbelief. Eyes. It turns out that the legend is true. The strength of Chen Luo's boss is really so terrifying. If this is the case, then it is not impossible to fight against 100. If he still had doubts about Chen Luo massacring hundreds of people by himself, but after seeing today's scene, he already believed it in his heart. Looking at Chen Luo's back with fanaticism, the reverence in Brutal's eyes is completely undisguised. In the world of vampires, the pursuit of strength is common to every vampire. Therefore, powerful vampires can often attract a large number of vampires to follow, just like Dickon, who founded the Frost family. At the beginning, he stood out by virtue of his strong strength and was followed by many vampires. After 100 years of development, the family has grown to such an extent. Even compared to the 12 strongest clans in this country, they are only a step behind. It is no exaggeration to say that with Chen Luo's demonstrated strength, if he chooses to leave the Forest family and create a new family, a large wave of vampires will hear the news and follow Chen Luo every minute. This shows the importance of strength in the vampire world. Chen Luo, who had no idea that he had another little fanboy, appeared in front of Gyataro in an instant, looked at him with a half-smile, stretched out his hand as an invitation gesture, and said, "Your Excellency Gyataro, please come with me." Knowing that he was no match for Chen Luo, Gyataro gave up the idea of resistance and followed Chen Luo to the vehicle. Chen Luo tapped on the car window lightly. Seeing this, Brutal hurriedly opened the car window and asked respectfully, "Boss Chen Luo, are you looking for me?" "Yeah." Nodding slightly, pointing to the figure of Gyataro behind him, Chen Luo ordered, "Find a rope to tie him up, then get ready to go. Dickon is already on the way. We have to hurry up, just arrive." Hearing this, Gyataro's expression changed and he asked, "Are you from Dickon?" After knowing the news, his face instantly calmed down, and he looked at Chen Luo and the two of them, with a hint of disdain flashing in his eyes. "You should understand my identity. I am a pure blood clan. How dare you do anything to me? Don't you fear the sanctions of the 12 clans? After all, Gitaro looked closely at Chen Luo and said in a deep voice, I know that you are powerful. With your strength, as long as you are willing to leave Dickon, I can make an exception and let you join my family. Become a member of the pure blood clan. It is not impossible to even inherit my position in the future. Such conditions should be much better than yours in the forest family, right? How about it? Do you want to think about it? Hearing this, Chen Luo just smiled and didn't answer. He turned around and looked into the car with his eyes beckoning. Bluto, what are you still doing? Hurry up and do it. Yes, I understand. Brutal shuddered all over and quickly got out of the car and started to act. Seeing that Chen Luo was indifferent to his proposal, Gitaro couldn't believe it, but he didn't say anything, just sighed deeply, and then let Brutal tie his hands and put a black hood on his head into the car. Afterwards, the three hurried all the way, and after several hours, they finally arrived at their destination before dawn. Chapter 20 successfully ascended to the position. The reward arrives in the account. On the endless coastline, there are vast reefs, and at the highest point of this reef, there are two figures standing there, as if waiting for something. Hearing the roar of huge amounts of engines above the reef, Deacon, who had been waiting for a long time, turned around and looked at the familiar car that stopped not far away, with a hint of excitement suddenly showing on his face. It's finally here. After all, he couldn't hold back anymore, and walked quickly towards the car. Not long after, when Dickon came to the car, opened the door, looked at the tightly wrapped figure on the back seat, and slowly said, Gitaro, I didn't expect us to meet so soon. After all, without waiting for the other party to react, he pulled the other party out of the car forcefully. He lifted off the hood on the opponent's head and regained his vision. After seeing the person clearly, Gitaro's eyes were full of anger, and he gritted his teeth and growled, Dickon Frost, do you know what you're doing? I'm the president of the Vampire Council. If anyone finds out about this, you will be punished by our pure-blooded race. So you'd better think clearly. If you choose to let me go, I'll pretend this never happened. How about it? Ha ha ha. Hearing this, Dickon looked at the other party with disdain and laughed loudly. Gitaro, do you think I'm an idiot? If I really let you go, would you be willing not to trouble me? I'm not so naive. Seeing the other party's reaction, Gitaro's face was gloomy, but he was not surprised. After thinking about it, he spoke again. I think you brought me here to make me agree to your proposal. As long as you let me go, I will persuade others to agree. As long as you have the help of our 12 clans, you will become the leader of all vampires. New king. Although it was very tempting to listen to what the other party said, Dickon was not fooled. He sneered disdainfully and said, Put away your tricks, Gitaro. You are noble purebred vampires. How could you like me? A bastard? What's more, as long as I can complete my plan and successfully summon the blood god, I can become the new king of all vampires even without the help of you old guys. At that time, I will establish a brand new vampire empire in this country, and even bring the other two vampire kingdoms under my rule, and then raise all human beings in captivity as our food. Only we vampires are the real masters of this planet. After saying these words, Dickon turned his eyes back to Gitaro again, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. And you old guys, just obediently serve as sacrifices, and then offer your lives. But as for you, I'm afraid you won't have the chance to see what's going on in the future. Old guy, enjoy the last moment of your life. Hearing Dickon's plan, Chen Luo at the side also understood. Nodding secretly, building a brand new vampire empire is a good plan, but unfortunately, you won't be able to see this plan in the future. And according to this guy, there are two other vampire kingdoms, which is a bit interesting. It seems that there is a chance to learn more about it. Thoughts swirled in his mind, and Chen Luo's eyes flashed. The other side, knowing his fate of imminent death, Gitaro calmed down uncharacteristically, stared straight at Dickon's back, and said, Dickon, don't think that as long as you summon the blood god, you can get rid of your hybrid vampire fate. You will never become a pure blood vampire like us. With your lowly status, you will never be recognized by us. Hearing this, Dickon's face instantly became extremely ferocious. He smiled cruelly and said word by word, You don't need to worry about that. As long as I get the power of the blood god, if they don't obey me, then just kill them all. As long as I kill enough, they will bow their heads sooner or later. I want to see, between death and dignity, which side will they choose? But you don't have to worry about it, old man. After that, Dickon pointed at Dongfang and smiled. Look, the sun is about to come out. Why, as a purebred vampire, you should never have a sunrise. It doesn't matter. Today I will fulfill your wish. Afterwards, Chen Luo followed Dickon and the others, took out the prepared sun protection clothing from the trunk, put on them, wrapped himself tightly, and then brought Gitaro to the highest point of the reef. As the sun rose little by little, under the gaze of several people, Gitaro's body gradually began to turn red, and then under the sunlight, his body began to decompose little by little, and his skin, muscles, and blood disappeared with the wind little by little. In the end, as if reaching a critical point, Gitaro's body suddenly turned into a torch, burning for only a few seconds, and the sides of his body turned into ashes and floated in the air. This is the first time Chen Luo has seen the vampire's performance after being exposed to sunlight. Seeing this, Chen Luo suddenly felt a little heavy. At the same time, he became more urgent to eliminate the vampire's weakness. Back to base camp. On the top floor of the building, after getting rid of Gitaro, his old opponent, Dicken's mood improved significantly. In a good mood, he looked at Chen Luo in front of him. At this moment, he finally remembered his original promise. After this test, he now obviously trusted Chen Luo a lot, and the follow-up actions also needed Chen Luo's strength, so this time, he did not intend to break his promise. Thinking of this, he immediately made a decision. Chen, your performance has won the recognition of the family. Now it seems that you are indeed the most suitable candidate to inherit the position of Kurin En. From now on, this position will belong to you. Congratulations. As soon as Dicken's voice fell, the next moment, the system's notification sound came as scheduled. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the selection. The reward is now issued. The rewards have been distributed. Immediately afterwards, in Chen Luo's mind, a brand new memory began to emerge. It contains all the training memories of Blade from birth to the present, as well as all the actual combat experience. With the help of the system, all these experiences were absorbed by Chen Luo in less than 10 seconds, and successfully integrated with it. Feeling the memory in his mind, Chen Luo's eyes flashed with joy. If he was still a little uncertain about fighting Blade before, now in his heart, he already has the certainty of victory. Thinking of this, Chen Luo felt good for a while. At the same time, Deacon's voice rang in Chen Luo's ear again. Chapter 21 Blade's Goal. Chen, do you know anything about Blood God? Chen Luo's face remained unchanged. He looked at the other party with some doubts and asked in coordination, Blood God? What is this? Dickon was not surprised by Chen Luo's reaction. After all, he had only learned about the existence of the Blood God by accident. Chen Luo was just a newborn vampire who had been transformed for less than a month, so it was normal not to know about it. In addition, his actions would still need to rely on Chen Luo's power, so he would not hide this information. Therefore, after thinking for a while, Dickon slowly opened his mouth to explain. The Blood God is a great existence in the ancient times of our vampire family. It has unparalleled terrifying power. Not only that, after possessing the power of the Blood God, it will no longer be afraid of the sun. Just like Blade, all the weaknesses of vampires will cease to exist. This is the first time Chen Luo has heard about the description of a Blood God. Although he has seen the plot of the movie, it is not mentioned in this recorded movie. It is also the first time Chen Luo knows that becoming a Blood God can successfully overcome his fear Sunshine's weakness. Can't help flashing a deep desire in my heart. As if he knew what Chen Luo was thinking, Dickon's eyes flashed, and he said, and after my careful research, not long ago, I finally found a way to successfully summon the Blood God. As long as the Blood God is successfully summoned and the power of the Blood God is obtained, then we can be like Blade and no longer be afraid sunlight. Putting his hands on Chen Luo's shoulders, Dickon looked at him sincerely. Qian, I assure you, as long as you help me complete the Blood God ceremony, next time, you can also get the power of the Blood God, and the Empire will be established. You will get the status only under me. This is my promise to you. Hearing this, Chen Luo's face was moved immediately. He stared at the other party, and then nodded heavily. I see. Dickon, tell me what to do. If only I can. Dickon was overjoyed and said at once. It's very simple. The Blood God ceremony is divided into two parts. One requires the blood of Daywalker, and the other requires 12 pure-blooded vampires as sacrifices. As long as both are collected, the ceremony can be successfully started. So I need you to capture Blade. As for the sacrificial matter, I will handle it. The only Daywalker we know today is Blade, so no matter what, I want him to live. Do you understand? Chen Luo, who knew the content of the ceremony long ago, was not surprised. It just so happened that he also wanted to take this opportunity to meet Blade, so he decisively agreed. Give it to me. Seeing the back of Chen Luo leaving, Dickon's face instantly calmed down, and a special light flashed in his eyes. It is also the result of his deliberation to let Chen Luo go to capture Blade. Chen Luo's strength has been clearly demonstrated in these two missions. Whether it's the previous record of 1 enemy against 100, or this time breaking through the siege of the vampire elite team and capturing Gitaro, such a record can definitely fight Blade. Definitely, it would be the best if Blade can be successfully captured, but if it fails, it might not be a bad thing for him. After all, he has a trump card. As long as he uses it properly, catching Blade will not be difficult for him. The reason why he chooses to let Chen Luo catch him is because of his tentative thoughts. If Chen Luo can really succeed, then he will have to reassess Chen Luo's strength and make corresponding countermeasures. This blood god ceremony is the top priority in his plan. So Chen Luo's overly powerful combat power is also an unstable factor. So no matter what, he must find a way to prevent Chen Luo from approaching before the ceremony is successful. Otherwise, if Chen Luo had other thoughts and wanted to replace him, with his strength, he really didn't have the confidence to stop him. But if Chen Luo fails, there is a great possibility that he will die under Blade's command. Although he is somewhat reluctant to give up such a powerful subordinate, for the sake of safety, such a result is not unacceptable. And if Chen Luo managed to escape after the failure, then such strength would not pose any threat to him, so he could use him boldly in the future. Every possibility of the two confronting each other was taken into consideration by Dickon, and after careful consideration, he finally felt relieved. Then, it's time to prepare for the Blood God plan. Thinking of the upcoming Blood God ceremony, Dickon couldn't help but become even hotter. The second night, Blade here. After following the human policeman who had taken refuge under Dickon, finally, at the door of a bar that looked very lively, the other party slowly stopped in his tracks. Opening the car door, the other party walked directly towards the interior of the bar. Seeing this, Blade didn't dare to neglect, and he and Karen immediately followed. Seeing the two men approaching aggressively with weapons in their hands, the guard in charge of the door looked serious and immediately stepped forward to stop them. Wait, if you want to go in, you need to line up, and the bar doesn't allow you to bring weapons in. Hearing this, the two of Blade suddenly showed embarrassment, because there is no sign of the vampire family at the entrance of this bar, and the person blocking them is obviously only a human being, and in the moment of approaching just now, Blade did not find the Hagui clan tattoo on the other party's neck. Therefore, it is not good to directly attack the opponent. Since there is a queue, how did that person get in just now? Karen looked at the other party with dissatisfaction and asked. Mr. Diang is the VIP here, so he has the right to enter first. The security guard replied meticulously. But Karen wanted to say more, but was stopped by Blade's hand, and then pulled her, turned and left without saying a word. Just wondering why Blade didn't chase after him, the next moment, Blade came to the corner next to the bar, pointed to the window above, and grinned. Since you can't walk through the main entrance, then go in here. Otherwise, there will be too much commotion in front, and if the other party notices and runs away, it will be very difficult to chase. Karen understood instantly and couldn't help giving him a thumbs up, as expected of a professional. Okay, we don't have much time, let's go. Saying that, the two immediately started to move. Chapter 22, The Vampire Library. The other side. After Dion walked into the bar, he hurried to the door of the back kitchen. When he was about to go in, he was blocked by two tall and strong men at the door. Stop. It's not allowed to come in and out here. Dion is not surprised by this either. As a member of the Hagui clan, he is very clear about many rules of the Forest family. If it is an ordinary kitchen, there will never be a guard guarding it here. Someone just means that it must be one of the vampire strongholds. He quickly turned his back and showed the tattoo on his neck to the two of them. You should know this sign, right? I'm also a member of the Forrester family. Now I have something important to ask the person in charge here. Take me to him quickly. After seeing this familiar sign, the two of them looked at each other, and their brows were slightly loosened. Although they temporarily let go of their defenses, they still did not let go. Boss Chen Luo is not something you can meet whenever you want, and your identity also needs to be confirmed, and we will take you there after we confirm it. What did you say? Hearing this, Dion's face instantly became ugly, and he couldn't help but growl. You idiots! Do you know who is chasing me? If you don't hurry, Blade will come up. When the time comes, when he arrives, no one here can run away. Blade. The two were startled. How could they not know Blade's name? Regardless of whether what the other party said was true or not, this matter was enough to attract the attention of the two of them. Seeing the nervous look of the two, Dion hurriedly urged, Now you understand the seriousness of the matter? Why don't you take me there quickly? Unexpectedly, the next moment, the reaction of the two of them made him instantly dumbfounded. No, you can't pass here without confirming your identity. In addition, we will report to the higher-ups about Blade. You just wait here now. No. Do you know who you are about to face? Dion looked at the two in disbelief, his expression becoming more and more anxious. That's Blade. Aren't you afraid? Looking at his panic-stricken appearance, the two said with a hint of disdain in their eyes. If it was just us, we would definitely be afraid. But today there is Boss Chen Luo sitting in charge, with the strength of Boss Chen Luo, so what if Blade comes? If he dares to come, I think today is his day of death. Boss Chen Luo? Who is he? Dion was startled and asked with some doubts. Oh, that's right. You may not be familiar with the name Chen Luo boss, so if it is the name of a butcher, do you have some impression? The butcher? Is that the monster that slaughtered hundreds of people overnight? Hearing this name, Dion finally had an impression. As a member of the Forster family, he is absolutely clear about the battle that Chen Luo became famous for. It is said that although the hundreds of people were all human, After taking the new D product that suddenly disappeared some time ago, they all had rival to the power of a vampire. With this kind of strength, even if they are defeated, some people should be able to escape, and even if Blade goes out in person, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can all be wiped out. But Chen Luo just did it. It is precisely because of his exaggerated achievements that he became famous in the vampire world and attracted the admiration of countless people. After knowing that a murderous man like the Butcher was sitting in the town in person, Dion's complexion obviously improved a lot. He breathed a little relaxed and said, "Since there is a Butcher in charge, Blade should be afraid to come here." However, just as he finished speaking, a familiar voice sounded behind him the next moment. "The Butcher you're talking about, who the hell is it?" Hearing this voice, Dion shook his whole body, turned around slowly stiffly, and looked behind him. Knife Blade. The other side. Inside the back kitchen, a huge amount of freezer is located in it. Behind the freezer was a dark corridor, at the end of which stood an elevator. Taking the elevator down, there is a huge amount of database, where most of the records about vampires are stored, and there is even a backup of the transactions between the Frost family and the powerful class of the city. Politics, economy, real estate, sports, entertainment, etc. permeate every field. And behind the other door, there is the only surviving data of the vampire family, and the records about the blood god are also derived from it. There is no doubt that this is a library that truly belongs to the vampire family. The library is run by the major families in turn, changing every 50 years, and this year is the 10th year that the Frost family has been in charge. As for the one who is in charge of guarding the library, it is the huge amount of meat mountain next to Chen Luo, the library director Pearl. So, the information stored here is only the information of humans who are close to us in this city? What about other cities? Isn't this city the only one that has vampire activities? Chen Luo flipped through the documents in his hand and asked with interest. Definitely not, Boss Chen Luo, Pearl's piercing voice sounded. There are also traces of vampire activities in other cities, but those are the territory of other families. So those materials are kept secretly by other families. The management scope of the library. After a pause, he continued. And the reason why these materials appear here is because Dickon finds it too troublesome to find other places, so he puts them here. Chen Luo nodded clearly, then thought of something and said, "By the way, regarding the North Bear country in Europe, I heard that there are also 2 vampire empires. Are there any records about them here?" "Definitely there is." Pearl smiled confidently and said, "About the North Bear Kingdom, the vampire empire there was also split from the 12 clans, so it is still in contact with us. However, in the vampire kingdom in Europe, their birth reason is different from ours. It is said that their source is caused by a virus in the Middle Ages, so they have different abilities from ours." Hearing this, Chen Luo instantly became interested and quickly asked, "Where is the information about them? I want to see it." "Wait a minute, let me check. I remember it seems to be." Before he finished speaking, at this moment, a mobile phone vibrated, suddenly came from Chen Luo's pocket. Chapter 23. The Arrival of Blade. Chen Luo frowned, took out his mobile phone, saw the number on it, thought for a while, and connected the call. "What's up? You are the Butcher?" Hearing this completely unfamiliar voice, Chen Luo fixed his eyes and said in a low voice, "Who are you?" "Blade." The other party replied without hesitation. "Blade." Hearing this name, Chen Luo immediately understood what happened. He was silent for a moment, and then said, "Where are they? Also, why did you come here?" Hearing Chen Luo's question, Blade grinned, and looked at the 3 of them who were lying on the ground with severe injuries and fear, and calmly replied, "It's okay for now, but it's hard to say later. As for why I came here, let your subordinates explain to you." As he spoke, he handed the mobile phone in his hand to one of them. He took the phone tremblingly, and after some narration, Chen Luo finally understood the reason. After hearing that Blade actually followed the policeman all the way to find the door, Chen Luo was also a little speechless. Regarding Blade's luck, he didn't know what to say. Could this be the protagonist's luck? Shaking his head helplessly, Chen Luo thought for a while and said, "I see. You guys bring people here. Leave Blade to me to deal with." "Yes, Boss Chen Luo, I understand." After getting an affirmative answer from Chen Luo, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. It's not like Blade didn't ask them where the entrance is before, but because of Chen Luo's power, both of them were biting and didn't let go. Although they knew that doing so would risk being killed by Blade, they were still more afraid than the former. Chen Luo asked them to settle accounts. It is precisely because of the performance of the 2 that Blade has become more interested in Chen Luo. Now that the other party has obtained Chen Luo's approval, he has some expectations for the next meeting with Chen Luo. Then, under the leadership of the 2, the 3 came to the huge amounts of freezer in the corner of the kitchen, stepped forward and opened the door together, looked at Blade and said, "Okay, this is the entrance to the library. You go to the end of the corridor, there is an elevator, and you can meet Boss Chen Luo at the bottom floor." Hearing this, the 2 turned their heads and looked inside the door. Looking at the deep and quiet corridor, Karen on the side looked at the two suspiciously, raised the weapon in his hand nervously and said, "Why don't you come with us? Is there any trap here?" Before the two could react, they were interrupted by Blade waving. Pointing the gun at the two of them, Blade said calmly, "Let's go. Do you want your boss to wait too long?" Hearing this, the expressions of the two of them changed instantly, and they didn't talk nonsense. They led the way with ugly faces, passed through the corridor smoothly, came to the elevator door, pressed the button, and after about a minute, several people went underground smoothly. At the moment when the elevator was about to open, the two of Blade moved their footsteps, stood silently behind them, and looked ahead warily. As the elevator door opened, the scene they had imagined did not appear. On the contrary, what appeared in front of them at this moment was a tall, handsome young man with black hair and black pupils. Boss Chen Luo. Waving his hands indifferently, Chen Luo looked behind the two of them calmly, with a faint smile on his face, and said slowly, "How about it, both of you? You've already arrived here, so you don't want to stay and take a look?" Blade was silent for a moment, and walked over to Chen Luo over the two people in front of him. Looking Chen Luo up and down, a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes, and he said in amazement, "You are a butcher? Such a complexion is really rare." Chen Luo definitely understood what the other party meant, spread his hands, shrugged and said, "About this, you are actually as rare as me." What he said was definitely not aimless, and he didn't know if the vampire race was a bit discriminatory in that respect. Most of them were mostly white, but there were very few people with other skin types. At least during this period of time, Chen Luo was the only yellow-skinned vampire he had ever seen, and as for the black man, he was the only one in front of him, Blade. Definitely, after watching the original plot, Chen Luo also knew that there was another black-skinned vampire, who was Blade's biological mother, and was also a whole card used by Dickon to deal with Blade. As for why he didn't let the opponent directly attack, but chose to let Chen Luo capture Blade, Chen Luo also had some vague guesses about this, but he wouldn't say much. After all, getting in touch with Blade was also part of his plan, but before he had time to take the initiative to find him, Blade found him here. In a sense, this can be regarded as saving Chen Luo's time. When the two of Blade walked out of the elevator, the two behind them also closed the elevator door and left under Chen Luo's gaze. Hearing Chen Luo's answer, Blade grinned. His big white teeth gleamed, and said with a smile, "That's right, but don't expect me to stop you for this reason. If I don't get what I want, then I can only say sorry to you." Karen on the side also cooperatively held up the ultraviolet gun in his hand, looking at Chen Luo with a wary face. "Oh, then can you tell me what you want to know?" Ignoring the toy in the opponent's hand, Chen Luo narrowed his eyes slightly, looked at Blade and asked, "Where's Frost? Tell me." Blade held a pistol in his hand, and the black muzzle was aimed directly at Chen Luo. At the same time, a powerful aura surged from Blade's body and quickly approached Chen Luo. His aura has been cultivated after decades of fighting. Over the years, nearly 1,000 vampires have fallen under his knife. After countless sacrifices of lives, his aura has now reached a terrifying level. If an ordinary vampire stood in front of him, faced with his aura, he would fall into fear in an instant and allow Blade to slaughter him. But this momentum did not affect Chen Luo at all. He turned around unhurriedly and walked forward. "If you want to know, come with me." Although he was a little surprised that Chen Luo didn't respond at all, Blade also had absolute confidence in his own strength, so after a moment of stagnation, he immediately chased after him. Chapter 24. The First Confrontation with Blade. Following in the footsteps of Chen Luo, the three of them walked through the dense database and came to a somewhat dim room. At the destination, Chen Luo stopped, pointed at the mountain of meat in front of him, and said softly, "Okay, if you have any questions, just ask him. He is the curator of this library, and he knows much more than me. As long as it is about vampires, he should know the answer." Hearing this, it wasn't just the two of Blade, but also Pearl sitting slumped on the huge seat. A look of disbelief flashed across their faces. His eyes widened subconsciously, and Pearl's shrill voice sounded, "Hey, Chen Luo, what are you doing? Why did you bring Blade here? This guy is our enemy." In this regard, Chen Luo explained with a smile on his face. "Okay, Pearl, don't be so surprised. Since Blade was able to find this place, it is also fate. Letting people go home empty-handed is not my way of hospitality. What's more, I will take him to see Dickon soon. The Blood God plan still needs him. Since he can't even get out of here, it doesn't matter if he knows something." "The Blood God plan? What is that?" Blade on the side immediately became serious after hearing this sentence. Although he didn't know the content, just hearing the name, he couldn't help feeling a trace of uneasiness. On the other hand, after seeing Chen Luo's confident appearance, recalling his deeds, Pearl also felt relieved for a while, and when he heard Blade's question, he suddenly showed a smug smile on his face and said, "The Blood God is a great existence in vampire legends. As long as the Blood God is successfully summoned, the day when we rule the human race will not be far away." Then why does this blood god plan need blade? Does it have any special function? At this moment, Karen, who was on the side, suddenly asked. After looking her up and down, and finding that Karen was only a human being, Pearl curled her lips in disdain. Why should I tell you? You are only a human being, and you are not qualified to ask me questions. You. A gloomy look appeared on Karen's face. Before he could say anything more, he was interrupted by Blade waving his hand. Looking at the Pearl, Blade grinned and said, Do you know what this is? Pointing to the weapon in Karen's hand, Blade explained, This is an ultraviolet gun. Since you know all about vampires, you should understand what this gun can do to you. Does it work? So please cooperate with our next question, otherwise you should know the consequences. Hearing this, Karen on the side was not polite. He raised the gun decisively, turned on the ultraviolet light, and shot it at his fat body. Too. As if sulfuric acid had been splashed on him, Pearl's light green skin was instantly scorched by ultraviolet rays, leaving scorched black marks, and white smoke began to rise. From his body, he could still smell a faint smell of meat, which made people involuntarily some nausea. Stop taking pictures, I say. The blood god plan requires Daywalker and 12 pure blood vampires as sacrifices. Only by offering your blood to the blood god will the blood god be successfully summoned. Blade, you are the most critical key, so Dick and I need you. Hearing this answer, Karen finally stopped his movements. After turning off the ultraviolet light, he smelled the scent on the opponent's body, frowned subconsciously, and silently backed away for a few meters. I see. I understand. Blade nodded, then turned to look at Chen Luo, and asked calmly, So, are you the one Deacon sent to arrest me? Before Chen Luo could answer, the next moment, Pearl on the side looked at Chen Luo angrily and screamed sharply, Chen Luo, you bastard! Why did you watch me being attacked by this damn human just now? Is that how you protect me? Damn guy, I must tell Frost about this and let him kill you. Shut up. While Pearl was still chattering, suddenly, a bone-chilling voice sounded. Chen Luo turned his head. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and looked at him calmly, Fat pig, don't let I won't hear any of your words again. Otherwise, you should know what will happen. Feeling the undisguised murderous intent on Chen Luo's body, Zhu finally came to his senses, subconsciously shuddered, smiled repeatedly, and looked at him with a flattering face, not daring to say another word. Seeing this, Chen Luo's face finally eased a little, turned to look at Blade, smiled slightly, and said, So you should also understand Dickon's next plan? In fact, I don't need you to come here. I will come to your door. Now you take the initiative to deliver it to my door, which saves me a lot of time. Quietly looked at Chen Luo for a moment, and then, Blade smiled again and said, You should be the only one here, right? You are so confident that you can take me back by yourself? In this regard, Chen Luo raised his eyebrows slightly, and looked at him with a half-smile. Whether I can do it or not, don't you know if you try it? But before that... Speaking of this, Chen Luo glanced at Karen, who was not far away, then moved his feet and disappeared in place in an instant. Boom! Sudden heavy blow to the back of the neck. Karen subconsciously rolled his eyes, his body softened, and immediately collapsed to the ground. Gently placing the unconscious Karen on the ground, Chen Luo raised his head, smiled at Blade and said, Okay, no one should bother us now. Then let me see how powerful Blade is as a vampire hunter. So fast. Seeing Chen Luo walking towards this side, Blade's eyes began to shrink subconsciously. This is the first time he has seen a vampire's speed reach such a level. Even he was a little bit too late to react, and after seeing Chen Luo's little test just now, he finally understood the other party's confidence at this moment. Knowing that the other party was definitely not the vampires he had encountered before, he was not careless at all, and started attacking without even saying hello. Boom! Pointing the gun at Chen Luo's direction, he immediately pulled the trigger. The next moment, violent gunshots rang out. Chapter 25 Speed Suppression. Sparks shot out from the muzzle, and then a bullet made of silver nitrate shot out from the muzzle. This kind of bullet is specially prepared for dealing with vampires. If it is hit by such a bullet, if it is a vital part like the head or heart, it will be enough to cause fatal damage to the vampire in less than a few seconds. There is no room for redemption. Even if it hits somewhere else, the silver nitrate in the bullet will flow all over the body with the blood, causing a similar poisoning effect, which has a great impact on the vampire's actions, especially for Chen Luo. Speed will no longer be an advantage. Without the advantage in speed, considering that his physical fitness is more than a notch inferior to Blade's in other aspects, even if he has all the combat experience and skills of the opponent, it is inevitable that he will lose. For such a result, Chen Luo definitely would not fail to understand. So the moment the opponent pulled the trigger, Chen Luo immediately took action. Whoosh! The body turned into an afterimage and disappeared in place in an instant. At 4 times the speed of a normal vampire, Chen Luo's reflex nerves were systematically modified accordingly, so he was completely aware of Blade's movements. It seemed to be in slow motion. Before the bullet was fired, Chen Luo just moved his feet and calmly dodged the opponent's attack. Seeing Chen Luo suddenly appearing on the other side as if teleporting, Blade's face darkened, and he quickly aimed the gun again and pulled the trigger again. Bang, bang, bang. Constantly bullets were fired from the muzzle of the gun. Under Blade's superb marksmanship, the bullets seemed to form a big net covering Chen Luo and blasted towards the blind spots on Chen Luo's body. In just less than 2 seconds, all the bullets in the gun were emptied. At this moment, Blade had already displayed his spear skills to the fullest. However, in the eyes of ordinary people, this is a superb spear technique, but it does not work at all in front of Chen Luo. It is not because of anything else, but the speed difference between the two is too large, so even these bullets can cause damage to Chen Luo. But the premise must be hit. Facing Blade's attack, Chen Luo's figure instantly disappeared in place, calmly dodging the oncoming bullets. On the other side, after Chen Luo reappeared, he waved towards the opponent and said with a smile, "There is no need to use these little tricks. You should be best at knife skills. If you don't show your real skills, then you will have no chance." Hearing this, Blade's face froze, and he immediately reacted, grinned, and smiled excitedly. "I really didn't expect to meet an opponent like you here. I remember you." As he spoke, Blade slowly retracted the gun in his hand, stretched out his right hand and looked behind him, holding the handle of the knife. The next moment, accompanied by the sound of gold and iron clashing, the long knife was pulled out instantly. Holding the long knife in one hand, the shiny blade gleamed, and the cold air was overwhelming. Perhaps because it had killed too many lives, this knife seemed to have spirituality, and it faintly emitted a crisp sound. Holding the knife behind his hand, Blade was in full swing, exuding a strong sense of oppression all over his body. The tip of the knife pointed directly in Chen Luo's direction, and his voice was slightly chilled. "There are quite a few vampires who died under my knife, but the one as strong as you is the first. Don't you want to see my full strength? Don't worry, you will soon see it. Let me use this knife to send you to hell." Damn vampire. Looking at the long knife in the opponent's hand with admiration, Chen Luo, who has all the fighting memories of Blade, is also a well-deserved master of swordsmanship at the moment. So after seeing a good knife, his hands are slightly itchy. Sensing the killing intent on the other party, Chen Luo naturally understood the other party's thoughts. After all, vampires feed on human beings. Every vampire has a few lives in their hands, so naturally they are not innocent. Therefore, Blade has no sympathy for sending these vampires to hell. But he would never have thought that Chen Luo was just such an outlier. Because of the existence of the blood cup in his hand, he had completely got rid of the dependence on human blood, so naturally he couldn't even talk about hunting humans. Even though he had slaughtered hundreds of humans with his own hands before, those people were all traffickers. Chen Luo didn't have any psychological burden to kill such a scumbag. Perhaps to put it another way, what he did was more like a crime. Good thing. However, Chen Luo has no intention of explaining this to Blade. After acquiring all of Blade's combat skills, Chen Luo now wants to have a good fight with the opponent. Perhaps only a strong man like Blade can detect the extent of Chen Luo's current strength, and only if he has a clearer judgment on his own strength, Chen Luo will be more confident in the next action. All kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind. Chen Luo put on his gloves unhurriedly, with a trace of fighting spirit on his face, and said, "Then I won't be polite. I also want to see what kind of strength the famous Blade has. Be careful." As soon as the words fell, the next moment, Chen Luo suddenly turned into an afterimage and came to Blade in the blink of an eye. A cold light suddenly appeared in front of his eyes, covering Blade's neck. Fortunately, Blade's reaction speed was also amazing. Although he couldn't see Chen Luo's movements clearly, his powerful fighting instinct made him make a judgment subconsciously. The long knife stood upright, and one hand rested on the back of the knife, blocking it in front of him. Then, accompanied by a crisp sound, on the edge of the blade, Blade clearly saw a thin thread with faint silver light wrapped around it, deadlocked with it. If it wasn't for the blocking of the blade, if the thin line fell to the neck, if the opponent just exerted a little force at that time, then he might end up with a decapitated body. Thinking of this, a layer of cold sweat broke out on Blade's forehead. At the same time, he finally realized the origin of the opponent's title of Butcher. With such a weird attack method, coupled with the opponent's ghostly speed, it seems that it is not unreasonable to be able to slaughter hundreds of people at the same time. It's unacceptable. "Oh, you were able to block it. It seems that I really underestimated you." Behind Blade, Chen Luo's voice sounded. Seeing the other party's reaction in such a short time, he secretly admired it. "If that's the case, then I'll do my best. Just let you see my real speed." While speaking, Chen Luo's figure flashed, and before Blade could react, his figure disappeared in place again.